toward her, and she's like, Mom, you're being so annoying. And I was like, but, and she's like, Mom, let him do what he wants. And I'm like, but he's going to get so, let him go to the taco stand, but there's no room. And she kept saying, let him. And every objection where I was like, his shoes are going to get soaked, her heels are going to get ruined, her dress, the this, the that. And finally, she just was like, let them do what they want. It's their prom, not yours. And there was something, Lewis, about that moment of the cascading, let them. That it was almost like the final one was a sledgehammer that hit me, and I just felt my whole body release. And I kind of thought, well, why do I care about this? Why am I not worried about where I'm eating? And so I felt myself just detach. I felt a sense of peace take over. And I walked up to Oakley, and he turned, he's like, now what? And I'm like, nothing, dude. Here's $40. Go have fun. And you then saw him drop his shoulders and smile and,
wow,
thanks, Mom. And he and his date ran out the door. And sure enough, mud all over the back of her dress, and his shoes were ruined, and they were soaking wet by the time they got to Chris's truck. It was super cute.
Wow.
And I get home, and I open up the door, and the dog has puked right in that entryway. Let him. But I'm dead serious.
Right.
And so all day long, whether it was traffic backing up or I send a text to somebody and they send like something sort of passive, let them. And I started to feel this instant lever of peace. And I started to feel this sense of protection from all this stupid stuff that I was allowing to drain my energy and to waste my time. And if you stop and think about it, your single most valuable resources are time and energy. Because where you spend your time and what you pour your energy into determines the quality of your life. And what I started to notice very, very, very quickly, like within 24 hours, is that the reason why I didn't have a lot of time is because I was spending it getting worked up about stupid things. The reason why my energy was so drained is because I was allowing other people's behavior or things that were happening around me to actually drain my energy. And saying let them became this lever I could pull any moment where I felt my time and attention getting sucked towards something that truly wasn't worth my time and energy or didn't matter or, more importantly, beyond my control. Because the dog's already thrown up. So I can't control what just happened. And as you talk about all the time, and as lots of people talk about, it's not about what's happening, it's about how you respond to it. And the problem that I've always had with stoicism or letting it go, or principles that are about being more peaceful and boundaries, is that I never knew how to apply it. Like, let's take the concept of let it go. I don't want to let it go. Because it feels,
why don't you?
Well, I'll tell you why. It feels like I'm losing. You know, when somebody says to you, Lewis, you just got to let it go. They're basically saying you lose. So stop worrying about it. That person won, you got to let it go. The upset that you get about something, the faster you lose your ability to think critically.
It's true.
And so when you say let them, it's like allowing something without allowing it. It's recognizing that there is something that happened or there is a person in your life that's doing something that's pissing you off or annoying you or stressing you out or worrying you. But you have no control over that. And so yes, react, but at some point you got to go let them, because it helps you recognize and accept the reality and detach from something. It's already happened. And detach, most importantly, from what you can't control.
So what's the second part then?
Let me. Let me choose what I'm going to do. And when you say let me, you do something crazy powerful. First of all, you take responsibility for how you're going to address this. And let's look at the word responsibility. It's the ability to respond. And when you say let me, you are reminding yourself that in life, there are only 3 things, Lewis, you can control. Only 3 things. Number 1, you can control what you think next. Number 2, you can control what you do or you don't do next. And oftentimes doing nothing is way more powerful than doing something. And number 3, you can control what you're going to do with the emotions that you feel. And when you say, let me, in any situation, you detach from the things you cannot control. And you remind yourself that no matter what is happening around me or to me, I always have power. Because through my thoughts and through my actions and through the processing of my emotion, I can positively impact or change what's happening for the better. And if you allow yourself to constantly get stressed out or waste your time by managing what you will never be able to control, you will never see the power that you have. And so this gets back to the question that you asked, which is, what is the single biggest thing that is in everybody's way? And the single biggest thing that is in everybody's way is the power you unknowingly give to other people. Because, and there are 4 main ways that you're doing it. And it is blocking your ability to be happy. It is blocking your ability to make decisions that are aligned with what you want. It is blocking your ability to leverage your time for the things that you care about. It is keeping you from pursuing the things that you're capable of doing in your life. And it is also draining your time. And the 4 big ways that you've turned other people into a problem. Number 1, you allow them to stress you out. Number 2, you're so concerned about what everybody else thinks. It is a massive obstacle in your way because you consider it before you do anything. Number 3, you navigate your entire life based on other people's emotional reactions. And you allow emotional immaturity in other people and in yourself to dominate how you move through your day. And number 4, your habit of chronically looking over there and comparing yourself makes you feel like life is unfair and that other people are against you or competing with you. And all 4 of those things are simply not true. And you can use the let them theory to remove all 4 of those obstacles. And when you no longer allow people to stress you out, you have more energy. When you allow people, you let them think negative thoughts about you because you recognize you can't control what they think anyway, it frees you up to focus on what's within your control, which is what you think about yourself. And when you operate in a way, Lewis, that makes you proud of yourself, you authentically don't really care if people have a negative opinion. When it comes to emotional immaturity, so many of us are driven by guilt, or we're scared to disappoint people, or we don't want to let people down, or we think it's our job to make other people happy. And when you organize your life around managing another adult's feelings, you become the parent to another human being. And there's a much easier way. Let them. Let them be disappointed. Let them be upset. Let them be sad that you're doing something that they wanted you to do, but you're not going to do it. Let them be an adult and let them deal with themselves. Allowed other people and your desire to control them or to manage them, or the sense that you have this responsibility to make everybody else happy, and you've forgotten about the one person whose job it is that you are supposed to be making happy, which is you. Kind of cool, huh?
Very could be, yeah.
Or you punish yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And
you feel
so,
shame and guilt and all the
correct.
things, yeah.
And so the let them theory is the exact same thing because it is a skill to be able to identify what's in your control and what's not in your control. And it is a skill anybody can learn. And you need to learn it because human beings, at our core, we have a fundamental hardwired need for control. It makes us feel safe. So if you really think about this, like, you need to feel in control of your decisions. You need to feel in control of your environment. You need to feel in control of what's going to happen in the future or at work today. And we also try to make ourselves feel safe by what? Controlling the people around us. And this is in all of us. I have this need to be in control. You have this need to be in control. This is why the parent-child relationship is so irritating, right? Because you're the parent Or you're the adult child and you have a need to be in control of yourself, but your parent only feels safe if they're in control of you. And that sets up a problem for every relationship that you're in. Because if I can't control you, it makes me feel unsafe. But if I try to control you, Lewis, then you're going to feel annoyed. And what happens in the body, and I write about this in the book, because the first thing you're going to learn when you learn this skill of identifying what's not in your control and removing it as an obstacle in your life. Because when you stop giving power to things that aren't in your control, guess what you get back? Time, energy, power, confidence,
Joy.
peace, joy. You realize you do have agency and that power isn't over there, it's in here. And you have the exact same thing. And when you start to tap into that for yourself, it's just liberating. And then you start to see the second thing that I write about in the book, which is that there are 4 ways you're screwing up your relationships because you're trying to control people. And any psychologist will tell you that when you try to control something that you can't control, it just creates stress and frustration for you. And it creates tension and misunderstanding and distance in your relationships. Because if you have a need to control, and I have a need to control, right? And I try to pressure you to do something, Lewis, your brain is wired not to feel motivated, but to actually resist the change I want you to make.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You don't want to do it.
No.
Yeah.
No. And so it was fascinating also to see that for 54 years, I was actually operating the opposite of human wiring when it came to relationships.
On a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of a parent-child relationships that you had, or even marriage relationship, 10 being the ultimate level of control, wanting to control either your kids or your partner, where were you on that scale?
I'd say that publicly I was probably a 5.
Privately?
10.
Wow,
Well,
really?
we all are. We all are.
So what does that look like then? Is it like not accepting your kids to be themselves, or they want to do something and you say, no, you can't do that, or here's what you need to do? Or
There's
how
a
does that
balance
look?
with it. Well,
Because you got to discipline kids too.
Of course.
So you can't just be, let them do whatever they want. Let them eat whatever they want. They can stay up all night. Let them.
No, because this is a book about adult relationships.
Okay, good.
And we make a huge distinction because when you're an adult, you are, and you have a child, or you're a caregiver or a
can't
coach.
let them.
No, you are there are certain things you need to let them do.
Yes.
But there are certain guardrails that are your responsibility. For example, a child cannot regulate their own emotions.
Right.
You have to, it's your responsibility to teach a child how to regulate their own emotions. And the problem is that no adults know how to do this.
They haven't been taught it either.
Correct, which is why another philosophy and rule in the Let Them Theory book is that from this point forward, go through life and see every adult as an 8-year-old in a big body. And when you do that, something fascinating happens. Instead of being scared of people who are challenging or narcissistic or passive or immature, you actually can let them be, and you feel compassion. And you also realize it's not your job to make excuses for somebody who is immature. It's not your job to change somebody who has a narcissistic personality style. It's not your job to take away somebody's disappointment or sadness. You need to let them. And when you do it, it's the ultimate boundary, because then you separate your emotions and energy from someone else. And then you say the second part, which is let me. Let me double down on my values and let me see this person very clearly. Because if I see this person's immature behavior and I visualize the 8-year-old version of them, what I realize is that this is a person who was just never taught the skill of understanding and managing their emotions in a responsible and healthy way. Dating or a brother or sister or friend is the hope that they will change.
Oh, no. God, it's so hard.
And,
They won't change.
well,
They might
no.
on their own.
Likelihood is not.
Yeah.
But I think that you can hold out the belief that people can change And at the same time, you can live in the reality of who they actually are right now.
Yes.
And that's the power of letting them. You're not letting them do anything to you. You're letting them reveal exactly who they are through their behavior. And for the first time, you are not explaining it away. Treated me nicer, then maybe. No, this is exactly who this person is. That's exactly right, Lewis. And here's the cool part. No human being's perfect.
Of course not.
And we can all learn skills.
Yes.
And so whose responsibility is it to create the relationship that you deserve? See, I think it's your responsibility.
Our responsibility.
And the way that you do it is you allow someone, you let them be who they are. And then you come back to yourself, and anything that's annoying you or frustrating you or that you're griping to your friends about, whether it's work or it's a friendship or your parents or whatever, that's the let me part.
Yes.
Let me either stop bitching about this, because that's the only way that you know how you accept it.
Accept them. Yeah.
Right?
Stop complaining.
Or let me sit down and be the emotionally mature one and make the request. So Chris has done this with me. So I'll play this out this way. So, you're good friends with my husband, Chris, and if you go into our bathroom, Lois, Chris's counter.
Clean. Organized.
So you do. Yeah.
No, I know, because this is my bathroom. I'm clean, you're organized. And when Martha puts something on, I'm like, you have a whole other separate counter. We're not sharing a counter. We have 2 sinks for a reason. And yours is 3 times the size of mine for a reason.
Yes.
You don't have to put your brush on my side.
Yes.
I like it clean.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Drives you crazy, doesn't it?
Crazy.
Yes. Okay, so it's perfect. Mine is just like Martha's. It looks like the CVS aisle tipped over on top of it.
And it's like, she can't even see what she has because there's so much stuff in it.
Yes. So it drives Chris bananas.
Yeah.
He has learned to let me. Now,
I let her on her side.
correct.
Hey,
but, correct. But when the brush comes onto your side, which I do too, because I walk over, I'm talking, and I put it down, and I walk back, right? So here's the thing, though. If it really starts to annoy you,
it's not that bad.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to control her, right? You are starting to get annoyed, so now you know it is actually draining some energy. The power's not in controlling her, it's in your response. So you go to Mark, Chris comes to me and says, Mel, I love you.
Yes.
The real trigger for Chris is cardboard boxes.
Cardboard boxes?
Oh, yeah, because what happens is they show
when
up.
you get boxes, And
then Chris is Mr. Slice them down, flatten
organize them, recycle them, whatever.
Yes, stack them in the garage in a certain way. They got all stacked up. He likes to put one in box, and I don't know. And he would ask me, when the boxes come and you empty them, please slice them. And I would do it some of the time. But most of the time, what I do is I just stack them next to the door to the garage.
And let him do it.
Well, that's not what
You're going to do it.
I mean to come down at the end of the day.
You're tired of it.
So Chris would come in, and he'd see them, and he has asked me multiple times. So, of course, it stresses him out and pisses him off and annoys him.
Yeah.
But what he did is he sat me down, because there's a big difference between what you intend and the impact it has in another person.
Yeah, if you scream at someone or scold them or shame them, you're not going to get a good response.
Correct.
But if you sit down consciously when things are calm, not in that moment, just say, hey, in a loving way, I love you, I appreciate all the good that you do for us and our relationship. We have a beautiful home. We have 3 amazing children.
And I'm like, now spit it out, Lewis. What did I do wrong?
Yeah, exactly. And there's just one thing that I would love to create an agreement with.
Yes.
Can we create this agreement together?
Yes.
And what support would you need in order for us to have this agreement work?
I said an assistant. No,
There you go. It's true, though.
But what he said to me was this. He said, every time I see those cardboard boxes there, it's like a giant middle finger to me.
Like, you don't love me. You don't respect me. You don't care about me. You don't appreciate me.
Correct. Yeah. You think I'm your maid. And I have asked about this. And when he explained it that way, what happened is it tapped into my intrinsic motivation, because I value how he feels.
Of course.
And when he communicated that way and he let me know, now I am motivated to do it because I know why it matters. And this is really important. When you communicate something to someone that it matters to you and they don't do it, you have to let them to know that 11% of people in long-term relationships have that sort of instant spark. 89% were the slow burn. And that's also important to know
Interesting.
because over time, people reveal who they are too. And it's why people grow on you.
Yes.
And one of the other reasons why I love this theory so much, you know, because we're all good friends, that Chris and I are about as opposite as they come in terms of energy and
He's
communication.
calm. You're
calm.
high
Does
energy.
he have a pulse? I mean,
I don't know how you guys stayed married. I don't know anyone in their 20s getting married in their 20s
Yeah.
stays married in their 50s or beyond.
tell you how.
Because if I got married in my 20s, I'd have been divorced easily once or twice.
early 20s for sure, I would have been.
I just had no emotional skills. And I think it would have just been chaos, I feel like, you know? And so I feel blessed and grateful. And I don't know how anyone who's been married 20 plus years in their 20s, starting in their 20s, makes it work. And it's a freaking applaud because I feel like I needed those painful kind of 5 breakup experiences and like just challenging relationships to finally say, oh, I wasn't letting myself or letting them be who we need to be.
Yeah.
And it was trying to like make something work that I wasn't accepting and they weren't accepting.
Well, you know what that is? Love.
Yeah,
Loving someone is letting them be themselves.
100%.
Because if you look at any relationship that breaks up, whether it's divorce or a breakup, there is a moment looking back where at least one of the people,
Didn't want it to work.
yeah. And the second component is that you're both willing to do the work to make it work. It's almost like you're always going to be on a seesaw with somebody in a long-term relationship. Ups, downs, balance. But neither one of you will get off the seesaw. And it's not so much with Chris, but it's with other family members that have had very challenging issues or challenging personality styles. Because somebody can be deeply disappointed in you or something that you've done, and they can still love you.
100%. Yeah.
Disappointed. Isn't that a good thing? Doesn't that mean they want you there?
Right.
And we think we've done something wrong. No, you've actually done something great. Because you have a relationship where somebody wants you there. So let them be disappointed.
Sure.
But then do the second part, let me remind myself of my values. And I don't bend over backwards just to make sure other people aren't disappointed. I just let them be disappointed, and I remind myself that I need to act in a way and spend my time in a way that actually supports the things that are priorities for me. And so by yelling at each other or arguing about things, or I don't understand how you could possibly, that doesn't do anything but create this silent distance between people. When you let people have their beliefs and then you remind yourself, let me decide what I value and let me decide what energy I'm going to pour into what, and let me decide if I want to keep the space in this relationship open. Because the other thing that I was getting super wrong in relationships, Lewis, is, I know that I have to push myself because I'm lazy and stubborn and doubtful and anxious like everybody else, right? I don't want to do the hard. So I'm like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I push myself. So naturally, I push everybody else. And our brains are not only wired for control, but we move toward what's easy, which is why you sit on the couch instead of exercising, because it's easy. And we move away from what feels hard. And if you're a parent, you're stomping up the stairs because your kid's not motivated and you hear the Xbox going, do you think studying is easy for that kid? No. That's why they're not doing it. And when you come stomping up the stairs to open up the door and be like, are you studying?
Yelling at them. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's motivating?
No.
You just create more resistance to the change that you want.
Yeah.
Now, you can't make someone change, but I never said you couldn't influence them.
Sure.
So that the hardest working person is the person who's struggling. I mean, people that are fat, they know they are. They know they are. People that are unhealthy, they know they are. And they're in tension with themselves. Of course. See, I choose to believe that everybody wants to be thriving. I choose to believe that everybody wants to feel good about themselves. People know when they're not living up to their potential. They are already actively in tension with themselves. They don't need pressure from you because it just creates more weight and shame around an issue they already wish they could change.
So how do you influence someone who you know could use support in changing
Yes.
something that's really
Yes.
holding them back,
Yes.
whether it's their weight
Yes.
or their
Have you asked them?
mindset or...
Have you asked them how they feel about it? Or have you just made an assumption that you know? Like, it's like, oh, thanks a lot. I should pay off my bills. Never thought of that.
Right.
Oh, I should eat healthier. Oh, thanks, Einstein.
Yeah.
Didn't occur to me that I should exercise.
Sorry,
Yes.
that's true.
And so you apologize for being judgy and assuming and a know-it-all. And like, I've known in my life when I drink too much. I've known when I've been a walking red flag, known when I'm not taking care of myself. And so when you say, what would you like to do about it? You've now just exposed the gap between what they actually want and what they're doing.
Yep.
So then you go to B, back
Yep.
off. That's it, back off.
Don't
Back off.
try to coach them. Don't tell them what to do.
Nothing.
Don't try
Nothing.
to control them. Don't
Nothing.
try to,
Back off.
you should do this
Nope.
and you should do
Nope.
that.
And you better wait 3 to 6 months. Just back off. And I want you to give it 3 to 6 months, and here's why. We all have the need to feel in control. They have to have enough space from you for it to feel like their idea. And you let them, you're also communicating, I believe you can. When you micromanage, pressure, and protect other people from the greatest teacher in the world, which is life, then you're actually saying, I don't believe you're strong enough to face this.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Did you feel like you used to micromanage a lot of people?
Everybody.
Really?
Well, of course, because I'm a control freak.
Right.
And, we couch it as worry and love and thinking we know best. And it's a wonderful thing, Lewis, to want more for the people you love.
Yeah.
We've been pressuring, worrying, judging, fixing, controlling. And the truth is, the more you let people be who they are, the better your relationships become.
Yes.
And the more you let people live their lives, the better your life gets. And the more you learn to see who people are, the more you get to choose how much time and energy you pour into what relationships and which ones you don't. This doesn't make you closed off. It actually makes you more connected
Yes.
and more compassionate and more loving and more supportive in his and expression.
Yes.
And with my kids, learning how to let them live their lives and let them make mistakes and let them face the consequences of the decisions. It is the single most powerful thing I could do, because I'm saying to them, I believe in you. And I believe in your ability to figure this out, and know that the second you need me, I'm there, because I'm always
Yes.
standing on the side cheering for you. I'm not on the field playing. I'm standing on the side cheering for you because I believe you can win this game. Share this?
Yeah.
And I spent so much of my life either feeling anxious or being a walking red flag because I just didn't know how to break out of the patterns that I was in, and I was controlling the wrong things, that I don't remember a lot, and I wasn't present for a lot of my life.
Why am I getting so worked up about it? So here's the thing. Rather than fix, replace, or ignore, here's 3 other options. One is, I accept the person. Yeah, I know that they lose their keys all the time. I know that he kicks his shoes off right in the middle of there, and I don't want him to do this, but I know that for whatever reason, that the person I'm married to struggles with something I don't struggle with, like order, or they struggle with being on time, or they struggle with putting the toilet seat down, whatever that is. I'm going to accept them. And again, I'm going to accept their good parts and accept the bad traits. Because we realize this is what we do for ourselves. That's not condoning the bad things. It's not saying the bad things aren't bad things. What it is saying, no, this is the person I married. Just like when we accept ourselves, we're not just saying, well, everything I choose is great. No, we're saying even the bad things, okay, that's a part of what I'm doing. It's part of what I'm wrestling.
But I would say that's not what's going on here. Anger is really you being angry at yourself and not giving yourself an allowance. You give other people maybe some room, wiggle room, but even then you can get uptight with other people very easily, right? Obsessing over the issues, right? That go back to, like, sometimes we can obsess over certain issues that go back to our rejection wounds. I talk about that, exposing the rejection mindset, right? Where rejection gets us hung up in a distorted filter that goes back to our abandonment issues, go back. And people can have abandonment is a very intense broken place in our life. And we can go to all sorts of mental health battles. It goes into all different kinds of areas that we can get spun out on. But it can make us obsessed over offenses because it's like, I don't know that I can land in this relationship because maybe they won't love me and I'll be alone. All this is pointing you back to learning what it means to be loved. That you're safe right now, right where you're at. There's the abandonment. Here's the abandonment. And so I'm praying that Father God will heal that place of abandonment. That's painful. So your abandonment issues have perfectionism tied into it. Because abandonment is parents physically leaving or emotionally not being there for you, neglecting you, not being there for you when you were traumatized or when you were neglected. There's many different pathways this can happen. Out of that, you become a perfectionist. I'm going to do things just right because that's how I will be loved. That's how I will be accepted. It's a lie from the pit of hell. But our evil stepdad, Satan, who wants to be our daddy, he's not our daddy. He's the father of lies. And where does he inject lies? Where we haven't been loved, where we haven't been nurtured, where we haven't been taught the safety of what it means to relate to our Father in heaven, the price that Jesus paid for, the grace towards us, the identity God's given us. Satan is always seeking to infiltrate all that, right? And that's at the root system. So you actually expressed here in this sentence, this is going to be, the government's going to take my phone, going to amplify it, play everything I've said. Everyone's going to hear. So it means the image of what people see will change. And I will say to that, so what? They heard all your venting. What are they going to do? Throw stones because they're sinless? Please. Please. So it shows the relationship you have with yourself that needs healing. And then he would be hurt and leave me. That's the abandonment issue. I'm not sure how to find peace on this issue. It's about learning to be loved right where you are. It's seeing yourself the way that God sees you and letting love lead you through the resistance that causes you to see yourself with hostility. Those complaints, because it is sinful to complain. There's the harsh intensity that takes a concept. Could we say it's sinful to complain? Sure. Then it's like, this requires punishment. The problem is there's complaining in everyone. Everyone complains out loud or in their heads. We all have journeys of learning to get negativity out of our life.
Is the people who want you to be the villain, you're not going to give it to them. You're not going to give it to them. The people who want you to be the enemy, the key here is to never give them the enemy. Don't let somebody else's bad behavior affect your integrity, affect your character. What does that sound like? So what does that mean, Jefferson? What do I do with that? All right, let's put it into 3. When somebody is, number 1, don't give them an enemy. When they start reacting negative towards you, you will not respond with negative. Mind you, I'm not saying at all that you do not defend yourself. You do defend yourself and you stand up for yourself and you stand your ground. It's this mindset that I like to teach, and I teach all of my clients, is that you don't have to push back. You just can't be pushed over. Meaning that if just because they throw something negative does not give you any reason to, well, maybe it gives you a reason, but it's not going to benefit you. It does not serve you to reach into your bag and try and look for something that's a bigger rock to throw, right? That's only going to hurt you. It's only going to bring down your energy, your integrity, and your character. And you're above that. So 1, don't give them an enemy for a reason to make you feel less. Number 2, what does that do practically? That means you're going to distance yourself from your care of them. Simple as that. Actually, it's not simple at all. It's much harder than it sounds. Phrases I like to use is to say, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. Somebody brings up something, says something ugly, negative. Aside from the different techniques we've talked about on this podcast and we're going to continue to talk about, I like using the phrase, I'm not going there. It's a quick way to say, where you're going, I am not willing to go. Simple as that. 2 is I like to say, I see things differently. I remember things differently. I'm not trying to argue their point. I'm arguing their perspective. And when they're trying to get me to a place that is negative, I'm just letting them know, you're not moving me off of where I'm at. And 3, what I like to use, and this is something that is one of these statements that keeps you where you are in the conversation, and I like to use this with people who are particularly like bullies, is have 2 things in mind. 1 is using the phrase, that's disappointing. That's disappointing. That's disappointing. Somebody says something negative, that's disappointing. They're trying to push you. They're trying to make you the villain. They're yelling something ugly. That's disappointing. Meaning it's disappointing for them and it's disappointing for you because you expected more. You wanted more. And truly, that's what it is. You wanted more from this relationship, from this person. You wanted more of them. It's not even so much of expectations, but a standard by which you decide how you will be treated. And when you say, that's below my standard of respect, that's below my standard of respect, or I do not accept that. I do not accept that. In my tour, I've gone, this is my 10th city. My last one I was at was LA, and there was this beautiful little girl, sweetest little girl that came in with her mom, and she came in with these stuffed animals, and she was really dealing with bullies and people who were mean. And she asked for a phrase that she could use. And the phrase I gave her was, I don't accept that. I don't accept that. And I'm telling you this right now because sometimes it might be something that, even though I'm giving this to somebody, she was 7 going on 8, is we need to hear that too sometimes. That it's okay to say, I don't accept that. I don't accept that. She wanted me to write it on a little bookmark for her. And it was just, she was precious. I don't accept that. When somebody's trying to make you the villain, I don't accept that. When they're saying something and wanting that response from you, understand the power is not you saying something right back in their face. The power is not you throwing it right back, just catching it and throwing it right back in their face. That is not true power in conversation. That is for the weak. That is for the people who are fine arguing with a fool. All right? The true power in conversation is realizing it's not a threat to you. It never touched you, and it never will. It won't even reach your feet. That's the kind of mentality I want you to have when dealing with difficult people. They give something to you, I do not accept that. I don't accept that. It's not something I open the door for. Because most of the time people don't say what is true because it doesn't feel nice. I don't want to say that to them. That's not nice. You ever thought that? I have. I don't want to say that. That wouldn't be nice. But is it honest? Yes. Is it real? Yes. Then say that thing, because it will eventually make you hollow. It'll make you hollow. In my part of Texas, we have trees, and of course, if you listen to this podcast, you know I love trees. And what they do as they die over time is mostly they die from the inside out. You would never know. You'd never know. It looks like a fine tree for years, and all of a sudden pieces of it would just start to fall off, limb after limb after limb, and then slowly just starts to cut down because the inside is hollow. How many of you listening right now, truly just take a breath with me for a second and just ask yourself, examine yourself, do you feel hollow inside? Because you are using words that sound nice but are not sustaining you inside, because you're not being real with yourself. You're not being authentic. You're playing nice at the expense of being real. This is where no or no thank you is the first thing that needs to come out of your mouth. Not say, oh, I really wish I could. Or, I'm just so busy and, things are just so stressful now. You see, that's sounding nice. That's surface. You're only trying to sound nice. Stop saying that if this person is somebody that you have an actual relationship with, that you can't give them I got to go pick up the kids. You know what I mean? I can't, you have a legitimate reason that's short, and this is a friend who understands. But if this is somebody at work and you're like, I really wish I could, I would love to, but I'm just so busy lately. It's sounding nice. So every time you start coming up with these things that you're wanting to go down that line, just sounding nice, that is surface level, that is playing nice at the expense of being real. I'm going to be real with you. I need to be real with you. I need to be transparent with you. I'm going to be honest with you. Those are much stronger than trying to just sound nice for the sake of sounding nice. Please stop people pleasing. What I say is, it's okay to please people as long as you're one of them. As long as you're one of them. Nice gets you steamrolled. Authentic, and it's corrosive. It will bed in you from the inside out. So begin with the no, the negative first. It makes everything else easier. Don't give the justifications unless they ask for them and it's somebody who actually matters to you. If it's not somebody, then they don't need to have a reason. If they ask you and go, oh, well, why can't you? You say, I'm not this time. You and I both know that ends up making you feel empty. Don't let yourself be walked over. If you need to hold a boundary, do not let their emotions all of a sudden become your emotions. Don't let them just take a stamp and stamp you with them and say, you have to also be upset if I'm upset. I've seen that too sometimes in people who, in relationships, they feel like, I just want you to argue with me. I want you to be mad like I'm mad. They want you to show some kind of emotion to see if it's, to feel something. Be very careful with that, because often that's just a manipulation technique. That's a technique they want to self-soothe in some way because they are dependent on your match of emotion that may or may not be healthy for you.
Listen, you are not a target. I was once told by my husband, you are an easy target and everyone knows it. Time and again, I walked away defeated, even with my children. Jefferson showed me what I lacked was communication skills. You are strong and courageous for recognizing there is a better way to bridge a gap, create healthy boundaries that work, to not get sucked down a rabbit hole, to not think you've lost your mind. And if you felt like you've been your whole life, this is where it stops. Rule number 1 in my book, there are 3 rules. It's rule number 1, say it with control. Number 2, say it with confidence. Number 3, say it to connect. And the whole focus of rule number 1 is you can't say anything about what I teach you, whether it's my phrases, my quips, my little words, everything that I can give you. None of it matters if you do not say it with control, if you do not first regulate yourself. So we're going to talk about in this episode what I want you to think about when conflict comes your way. Anytime that somebody says something that you weren't expecting, your body naturally, through its biology, reacts. People think that fight or flight is something that has to happen when you come with physical contact. No, that's not true. It happens every day in these little micro moments. Even when somebody just flatly disagrees with you, when somebody disagrees with your opinion, or they say something you don't like, or they call you an ugly name, your body goes, hey, brain, I didn't like that. And the brain goes, give me a second. Yeah, no, we definitely didn't like that. And it naturally reacts. You have a scowl on your face. You want to say something back. You get heated. Your neck and jaw get tense. All biological, all normal, all natural. So what do you do with that? Rule number 1 in my book is you use your breath as the first word that you say. And the reason why is because it adds a distance between what they say and how you respond, which gives you time to regulate yourself, to think of the quips that I give you and the sentences I give you. And it also, the other benefit is it allows the other person to calm down theirs as well. Gives time for that analytical side to take over. Every day, there are little things that tell your body, I am threatened. Somebody cuts in front of you in traffic. Somebody merges. Somebody's riding on your bumper. Your body goes, I am threatened. That's where road rage comes from. I feel threatened in this environment. When you're talking with your kids, when somebody says something to you that they disagree with your opinion, they dismiss your idea, you don't like that. Your body's saying, hey, that feels threatening to me. I want you to do something for me right now. Now, if you're driving, don't worry about it. If you're walking on the treadmill, don't worry about it. You can do it later, do it in your head with me right now. I want you to think of behavior that somebody does that really, really upsets you. And we're going to put a label on it. For example, maybe it's disrespect, dismissive, condescending, belittling, rude. Whatever it is, make it yours. What is a behavior that somebody exhibits that really just feels like it sets you off, that you just explode when somebody does this to you? You got it? You find that word. Now, write it down, and right next to it, I want you to write, does not threaten me. Does not threaten me. So the sentence would be, dismissiveness does not threaten me. Rude comments, backtalk, insults do not threaten me. This is the mindset I want you to have when this kind of stuff comes up in your life. Why? Because it is telling your body of, hey, when somebody raises their voice, that doesn't threaten me. When somebody calls me that, the way I'm reacting and telling my body is, hey, this does not threaten me. That's what you're doing with your breath in that moment. That's why we give it time to tell your body what is happening in front of me is not a threat, right? It's this idea that you've seen the big animals, whether it's a lion or an elephant or something, they have like maybe a little dog or something. They just go, what is this? It's like a little animal coming up to a big animal. They're not threatened in any way. That's the whole mindset here of, hey, what you're doing this isn't threatening to me. I'm seeing right through it. Cool? I'm going to tell you a quick story right now that I don't think I've ever shared. And I just walked myself all the way through. I had already gone through security. I had already gone through all the check and the getting your stuff out and ready and giving your ID. I started walking out and I passed this exit where it goes, the point of no return, where it has a red line there at the airport. And I walk out of it and all of a sudden, this is me by myself. And I look and I say this out loud. I go, oh my gosh, I got to do this all over again. Because I have to know I'm going further down where a separate terminal is. And I say, oh my gosh, I got to do this all over again. And a voice that I had no clue where it was coming from, female voice, goes, that's why you should read the signs, sir. And I'm trying to find who that is. And I turn and look. And as I'm looking, she goes, you have no one to blame but yourself, sir. That's why we have signs. I don't know if you're feeling this, just hearing it to me. Just the way the tone came across was so condescending and unexpected and unnecessary. You ever had that? That's why we have signs, sir. You have no one to blame but yourself. And I remember being just taken aback. Who are you? And it was a TSA agent. Now, if you're a TSA agent, I know not everybody is rough and can be terrible. And I'm an attorney, for crying out loud. Not all attorneys are bad. There are some TSA agents that are wonderful. There are some people that are bad. We all have bad apples in every profession. This one right here, this lady, she was a middle-aged lady, just looked so smug as soon as she said that. And this is what my body wanted to come back with some really good zingers in that moment. I wanted to say a few things to her because it was really rude. It was unnecessary. And this is what I did. Of course, I have to practice what I preach, right? I looked at her for like 5 seconds, trying to figure out, did she say that? And I just give it time. And now she's sitting back and blinking and looking at me. Her smile is gone. And this is what I asked her. I said, how do you feel when you say that kind of thing to someone? Does it give you joy? That's what I said, like verbatim. And immediately she got red, and just got red in the face and apologized right there. I didn't have to prompt anything. She goes, I'm sorry, sir. You're right. That wasn't kind. You're right, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, you can find the terminal if you go straight down. And now she was in helping mode. You can go right here, and this is where it's going to be. I would say, oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right. Well, you have a wonderful day. You are not a target. You are not somebody's punching bag. You are not the outlet for somebody to release all of their frustrations and their angers and their smugness on you. These tools work. This is why I talk about them. That's why I feel so passionate about sharing these. You had the choice right in that moment when somebody says something ugly, when they're the TSA agent in your life, how are you going to react? What are you going to say to that person? Are you going to allow them to just press your remote control and manipulate all your emotions? I had a choice. You have a choice. Is that going to ruin your day? I just can't believe you'd say that. Excuse me? Excuse me, are you talking to me? You see how it easily could go the other way when you give in to that fight or flight, when you don't use your breath, when you don't regulate yourself. If you do not say things with control, it doesn't matter what kind of tip I can give you. It's not going to work. It ain't going to work. You have to say it with control. You are not a target. I hope that this is a good reminder for you, wherever you are. I can give you lots of tools and tips on what to say. You are not a target. When that happens, I want you to go to your breath, regulate yourself, and then use the questions that I've taught you. These are questions like, did you mean for that to be rude? Did you mean to insult me? Did you mean for that to embarrass me? Or you give it time and then you ask somebody a question of intent. How did you expect me to react to that? I could have said that to her. How did you want me to respond to that? How does it make you feel? Imagine being the person who would say that to someone. These ways of responding to rude behavior that is actually not a response. It's a question. You're not giving them matters of substance. I'm not saying, you spit in my eye, let me spit back in yours. No, it is a reflection of their own behavior and character. And 9 times out of 10, the other person sees that because you're giving them time to, are seeing. It's like the blood, the red, it's not blood. The red comes out of their system. Or somebody's seeing red, you have to give them time for that to go away. Come back to normal. Come back. I know that's not who you are. People are far better than we give them a chance to be. Why? Because we know that in ourselves. So when you have the patience and the discipline to get to that, you're going to have a better communication and a better relationship and a better life because of that.
Easily can get triggered off in certain issues. My wife and I both carry intense sensitivity. We both have sensitive hearts, both have obsessive tendencies, both have perfectionistic tendencies that go in different directions. And we've had to learn about how to let go of things and let go of things and let go of things and learn to love and be compassionate and not give attention to every little detail of what bugs you. Because here's what you notice. When you give attention to everything that bugs you, then you start giving more attention, then more attention, then more attention, then more attention. And now you have to have a meeting over every little thing that bugs you. And this is where it's like perfectionism and OCD is taking over. Okay? The reason I'm writing to you is the following. So I haven't even gotten to your question yet. And I believe the top of the question, the title, was more fear. Addressing the fear. I'm responding to it, as you can see, a whole different way here. okay. Marriage is a big transition. We need to give ourselves time to learn how to relate, to learn how to love, to learn how to talk through things, to learn to go, yeah, I'm over talking this. I don't need to talk about this. To go, yeah, I can just let that go. That this isn't something I need to talk out with him or even talk out with God. I can just let this go. And I can learn to just flow in the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. That's really the mark of maturity. Also, I find myself getting hurt about things or getting angry, mostly due to fear issues. Correct. Where we are anxious, fearful, we often respond in anger. Many times that anger lash out is a stress response. It's a fear response. 100%, it can be a major, major factor. If you bring in perfectionism and OCD, that's heightened. It's super heightened. That anxious, because then you're constantly disturbed and guilt and anxiety surrounds that area, okay? This is a perfectionistic thing. This is my discipleship is actually learning to let the anger grow through me. And if I see a pattern of it stacking up, looking at it compassionately and going, where can I be kinder to myself to see this the way that I need to see it? So that love can surround it so I can see myself and this other person through love. Because if I'm not seeing myself and the other person through love, this anger, this obsession, all this stuff's just going to take over. The question is, you must talk it out. So you got to get it solved. So we're going to starve that. You don't have to talk it out. You don't have to say it out all the time. Anger kicks up. You're going to start letting it float through. And when you first practice that, you're going to feel very disturbed. You know, I need to do something about this. You know, let it go, let it go, let it go. And keep practicing and let it go. We're going to practice, let it go, let it go. I'm not going to obsess about this anymore. And they're like, you okay? You're like, I'm good. I'm good because I don't respond. I'm not letting this anger control me. Because perfectionists don't have a good relationship with anger or with any flaws. Period. Okay? So you feel this anger, you go black and white on yourself. He sees you're patient and loving. You go black and white because you feel shamed about the struggle you have with this anger on the inside, this perfectionistic, intense standard that things need to be just right. And anything that messes, that creates a disturbance, don't follow the models out there. Where it's like everything's perfect, everything's great, and say everything great, sentence is great, and amazing presentations. That's setting people up for being really emotionally unhealthy, because then you serve that stage, make sure that image is there. You need a constant PR director to make sure everything's presented in a certain way. And my wife and I really try to interrupt that, because it's like we're going to establish being ourselves in our journey, in our flaws. We're going to make room for that. And not every presentation is perfect. Not everything that's given is perfect. Even if you notice, I have certain videos that I'll do that might be shorter. I kind of edit them and so forth. But a lot of these are more long form, me talking. I hit record and then I hit stop and I post it. Whether I said all the sentences the way that I wanted to or said everything the way, because this is a journey. I'm on a journey and you're on a journey. Okay, so there's this image we present to the world, and then we realize inside I've got struggles. So it creates this conflict, right? And I'm not saying you have to tell the world your flaws, but we have to become more at peace that we have great things, we have evil things, we have great things of wholeness, great things of, and also things of brokenness. And God is lovingly embracing all of that. Perfectionism says, no. So this perfectionism accuses you to yourself. And you become self-condemned and guilty. And what we need to do is make you more at peace and give a big hug to your weaknesses. That you have fear and you have anger. You have fear. You have anger. Welcome. Welcome to the everybody's. What's the everybody's? It's all of us. We all have those kinds of issues. And so there's no allowance for that in you. So it creates a disturbance. Yet there's flaws. Yet there's a presentation you try to be to other people. So your husband's just giving you feedback of, hey, you're loving. You're great. You're very kind. But there's that unworthiness I talked about earlier. Can't receive love when it's given to you because I gotta be on point. I will not be loved and at peace if I have any presence of this in my life. So love is always conditional. Love gets pushed away. So I feel like a hypocrite. That bothers me. You know how we break out of being a hypocrite? We remove what we present from what's really going on. We let it all tear down. And we start going, you know what? You got problems, I got problems too. There is not an issue that I see in people's lives that I don't go, yeah, I could be right in that same battle that you're in. Most of what I'm reading here, I relate to. And I wasn't given an allowance, nor did I give myself an allowance to be able to be weak, flawed through issues. So it's not your battle, it's your hatred over it. And it's really a self-hatred issue of not loving yourself the way that God loves you. He looks at you right now, sister, with deep eyes of love in your strengths and in your goofiness. He doesn't just love you where you're doing great. He loves all of you the time. And that makes perfectionistic people squirm inside. How could that even be true?
Sisters who were against each other. And it was about as fun as it sounds. They were very against each other. And I had her lead with, I'm getting off the merry-go-round. I said, that's what I want you to start with when it comes for your time. I mean, it was more of a personal thing of like, I need you to let this person know I'm stepping off. You can step off with me, but we're going to put this issue aside.
Yeah, or you can keep spinning around by yourself.
Exactly.
And I'm removing myself.
Yeah.
And I think churches need to spend more time understanding how marriages are doing, because most of them are struggling. Most of your marriages, pastors in your church, most of your marriages are struggling. Why? Because they're calling me. Why am I yelling? Why is my Puerto Rican side coming out right now? Because this is so okay, let's talk about your OCD part. The OCD part is going to make you nitpicky and you're going to get agitated at everything. And then when you talk about it, you're going to talk about it so catastrophic, you kind of lose your peace. So it's about having sober conversations. In my church, I don't care how involved you are, all this and that. I don't care about any of that. Right? I look and I go, okay, how is my wife doing? How can I serve her heart? And that's the value. Not these broadcasts, not the ministry, whatever. You know, and during seasons where things are harder, where we're weary or we're worn out, it's not just like, hey, just keep going. I go, we'll take breaks. And you guys see us, we take breaks. Why? For our own health. I take sabbaticals. We take holidays off. We're not going to get into this like where this thing is going to own us, because that's the system that we live in. Our jobs own us. Our church involvement owns us. No. It's my marriage. It's my family. Now, if you're still working at it and you have some problems and the marriage falls apart, listen, no condemnation. This isn't about a condemnation because there are kids going astray and they're like, what did I do wrong? And they're spinning. It's not about condemnation. What I'm saying here is the value shift needs to happen. So you as a wife need to be empowered. You need to be empowered in these moments. And you have to recognize with OCD, your emotions can get off track quickly. You can get very angry easily. You can get triggered into anxiousness, and then you feel like you can get into nagging mode. Be strategic. Have a sit down. Make it an enjoyable one. Hey, hon, I want to make him a nice meal, or say, could we go out and share your heart, and do it with as little to no finger pointing. Use language like this, honey. I feel like we're a bit in roommate situation here. We're kind of just two ships going. I believe you want more and I want more. Use more we wording to keep the accuser from jumping into the conversation. Because as soon as he jumps in, it's like you don't do anything, I do all this stuff, and you don't listen to me, and all of that. No, have a good conversation about this. It may get ugly for a little bit. It's all right. Don't do the mudslinging. Go, hey, I'm sorry, I got too much there. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell. I didn't mean to swear or whatever. I didn't mean to throw the potato across the room. That was wrong. Spinning the plate against the wall. Backing up the RV. We'll need that. Melissa and I got married and realized we don't know how to love. We don't know how to do any of this. And it makes sense because our generations didn't either. It gives you opportunity for learning. So in OCD, it's more navigating your mood and how you can have a tendency to overreact and that sense of expectation and nothing's good enough. Nothing's good enough. So if we need to have more date nights and all that, right? And if he doesn't do it perfectly, don't nag him through each step. It's pulling on us and pulling on us and pulling on us. And so we'll have to realize, and I realize this in my own life, by my overthinking, I'm staring at this thing so much. I'm actually not aware of my life and what's happening. So in this, you will end up staring at yourself and your problems all day long. And did you know that you do not get well by staring at yourself and your problems all day long? I would often sit there and just stare and ruminate and spin and chase and argue and figure out, and thinking that the more I analyze this, the more I'm going to get to it and I'm going to break through. I became very introspective, and I had to, and I encourage many others, I had to renounce the practice of introspection, which is continual staring at your
3 years of therapy in 60 fucking seconds. Raising teens. Number one, I used to think I was fucking patient. Then I tried having a calm conversation with someone whose brain resets every 8 fucking seconds. Number two, you can't take it personal. Your teenager doesn't hate you. They just think you're Wi-Fi with all the fucking rules. Number three, I just stopped arguing. Now I just raise one eyebrow and let natural consequences do the parenting. Number four, therapy taught me half of parenting teens is remembering what it felt like to be one. And the other half is deep breathing while they act like you ruined their life by asking them to clean their fucking room. Number five, they don't need lectures. They need examples. Unfortunately, that means you have to be the example. Tragic. Number six, every teen goes through that phase where they think they're smarter than you. Let them. Life will humble them by chapter 2. Number seven, pick your battles. Not every hill is worth fucking dying on. Some days the win is just getting them to eat a fucking vegetable and not slam the door. And last but not least, raising teens isn't about control. It's about guidance, patience, and pretending like you didn't just hear what they muttered under their breath.
You see, when we have fruitful sharing, there's encouragement. Okay, I'm going to take the next step. But you all have to understand that there's many areas of our life that we're stubborn in because it's what we're used to and it's where we go, and we create blinders, we create rigidity around it. And actually those areas need some teachability. But with self-pity, we're not teachable in those areas. You need to be very, very stubborn. Now, you can be maxed out and stretched, and self-pity just keeps us locked in not taking the new opportunities or the new potential perspectives. Many times in self-pity, people can ask questions, right? And you ask people questions, pray for me, and what about this? And what about this thing in the Bible? And there is an application. We ask questions and you get feedback. Oh, okay, I need to apply that. And here's where I'm going. We ask more questions. And we're just relating to that because what we're looking for a secret formula or something magical, when really the answer is right in front of you and it's taking the next step. Now, I want to say to you, there have been people in your life who have said words to you and they didn't say it in the best way. They didn't say it kindly. They didn't package it well. And many people can be even jerks about how they say things. But if you're an overcomer and if you want to live sober, you can look back and go, okay, there was some truth in those statements. And, times people told me, just kind of a broken record. You're saying the same thing. Or where I'd see people kind of, exhausted by me going through my stories over and over again. I get upset. You're not being loving. And I had to realize, you know what? No, they're exhausted by me regurgitating this over and over again. I've told the story over and over again, speaking of me being told, if you stay in the patterns you're in, you're going to be 60 and alone. We're talking about my relationship dating patterns and some of the neurotic, obsessive, compulsive patterns that I had. Hurt my feelings, but it was the truth. And I had to realize there can still be things that weren't said the best, but there's truth in it. And I can take that and I can learn and I can overcome. But if self-pity is a part of my life, then I need you to be something, and I need you to not, no, don't talk about those areas. No, talk about those areas, because I don't want to change those areas. You have to remember, self-pity is very, very stubborn. Very, very stubborn. And that's where I tried that. Yeah, I tried that. Well, mine's different. My situation's different. And I'm going to take it a step further. That self-pity is actually a form of pride. This is for your help, because for many of you, I'm fighting for your mental health right now. And so self-pity, why is it a form of pride? Because it rejects the love that God has for you and says your situation's different. Rejects the beauty of God's grace and hope that's available for you today. It says no to God's empowering love. And we develop a sense of my problem. And many relate in this way. Mark, my problem, I'm the worst. I have the worst problem. I'm the worst OCDer. I'm the biggest perfect. I'm the worst of the worst in these areas. It's like where self-pity is taking us is the trophy of the worst problem that exists. And I'll tell you straight up, no, yours isn't. It's not. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whose problem is worse. Everybody's got battles. Everyone on the planet has battles. But self-pity will teach us to have a bit of my problem is the worst problem competition. Now, when it comes to processing, I think it's worth noting that self-pity, it keeps us in unproductive weeping. Unproductive weeping, where the tears don't lead us anywhere. It disconnects us to comfort, it isolates us, and it creates just a wallowing without really going anywhere. And in the book of Psalms, this is a great passage of scripture because it shows us how weeping can be helpful. In Psalm 84, verse 5, it says, "Blessed is the man whose strength is in you." So we're talking about gaining strength. "Whose heart is set on a pilgrimage." Oh, do I hear a journey mentality here? Yes, I do. Whose heart is set on getting fixed tomorrow? No. I'm on a journey. I'm on a pathway that I'm headed on. And as a part of your journey, you're going to have times of weeping and times of grieving. As they pass through the valley of Baca, which is, it's translated weeping, they make it a spring. And see, that's the difference in weeping. It's not that all of a sudden, as soon as you start crying, you feel great, but productive tears lead somewhere. You feel comforted and you take a deep breath and you go, okay, I can take a next step. The rain also covers it with pools. So speaking of refreshing, and what happens? They go from strength to strength. I had to learn to allow my tears, my moments, from this moment of tears to this moment of tears, be from strength to strength, from strength to strength. I'm getting stronger because crying, and many of you, it's been a long time since you've cried. And maybe you shut down tears in your life and you need to, when it's just tears of just unproductive, not going anywhere because you're turning on yourself. Of course, weeping is a part of grieving. But then what happens is unproductive weeping, it wraps around our personality, right? Because self-pity will condition your personality. I've even seen it, you're talking along with somebody. So tell me, how are you doing? And they go, it's like, there it is. The programming, the self-pity programming. This is how I relate because I got to relate through my problems. Not good. It's been really, really bad. Right? And I realized, wow, self-pity is training my personality. I'm now being conditioned around this like a whole pathology that goes throughout my whole being and how it manifests in my countenance, in my words, my energy level. And what self-pity blocks you from is true nurture and comfort, because nurture takes you in with love and empowers you to get back out there. And self-pity won't let you leave. It doesn't want you to leave the story. Because if I leave the bondage of anxiety every day, if I leave the bondage of depression, if I leave the bond, whatever it is that you're battling with, if I leave it, I now have to welcome new mindsets. So if I'm gonna step out of old dysfunctional ways, I have to develop new mindsets. I have to leave old ways behind me. Those ways were toxic, but I went to them for comfort. And now I'm going to have to dig deeper and get strength, and I have to grow up, and I have to mature in areas of our life. It's a big deal here. It won't, but it'll block you. It doesn't want you to step out. As a last resort, self-pity will often convince you that people do not love you, especially in moments where you're challenged. Because every one of us has moments where we're confronted with this destructive thinking is not helping me, but we stew in it. And we live in it. And it'll often say, people don't love me. They're so mean. They said all these things. Nobody loves me. The world's against me. When you feel you're cornered and your back's against the wall, I want to encourage you, you may want to challenge it. Is that really true? Because we may be under the influence of a liar that's not allowing us to gain the freedom that we need in our life. Very strongly, that I see self-pity as a very prevalent demonic work of the enemy. And I use that word strongly. I don't know where your spiritual warfare perspective is, but you have an enemy. The enemy's not you, but you have an enemy that seeks to infiltrate through your thinking and through agreement and through patterns that limit the potential of God in your life. And so I really believe on the top of the list that it's a tool the enemy uses to train you in finding comfort in counterfeit ways, training you to find comfort in counterfeit ways, meaning there is a comfort from God, but there's also a comfort from the enemy. And it's unproductive. It's deadly. It's destructive. It'll drive you in remaining emotionally stuck in past pain, prevent you from breaking out of woundedness into new ways of freedom. It's going to keep you bound in destructive relational patterns so you don't experience the beauty of intimacy and loving connection. People that have self-pity never really connect effectively because when their woundedness comes out, they get swept by it, so they never connect. The focus becomes the pain and the sorrow, and they're just not able to connect. It keeps you focused on negativity, disappointment, and darkness. You get around those people. Let's talk about everyone else for a second, not you. Where there's just a cloud of that constant negativity, constant darkness, constant disappointment that just keeps getting fed. To enter into a new threshold, self-pity yanks on them to pull them into despair and use old references to keep them bound in the bondage of the past. So I want you to understand up front, the truth is it's extremely challenging, nearly impossible to help someone break free in any area of their life. Any kind of healing issue, any kind of growth issue, any kind of overcoming issue, it's nearly impossible when self-pity is in the mix. And it shows up a lot. It shows up when the pain comes to the surface. Now, there's effective sharing. So the answer to self-pity is not that you never share your problems. What people with self-pity need is productive sharing and processing where they can share what they have in the atmosphere of love, but have productive movement, where they can take steps of freedom. Self-pity is not going to let you do that. It prevents progress from being made. It's gonna pull you down, and then what it wants to do is suck everyone around you into that vortex. Self-pity can only be driven out by you. No one can pray it off of you. No one can help you out of it. Paul said to Timothy, there's people that are going to war against you. They're not going to see the stuff that they need to work on. Don't argue with them. Don't battle with them. Just teach. Just remain in meekness. Keep instructing them, and that God would grant them repentance, that they'd be able to get out of the snare of the devil because the devil's held them captive And one of the big ways the devil will hold people captive is in self-pity. And we need to see self-pity for what it is, demonic garbage and as sin. And we use the word sin, and many people have references of sin being like, oh, and they feel condemned and they feel shamed. There's no shame. There's freedom in Christ. This is all about being free, and it's all about being empowered. Now, those who usually say they can't seem to make any progress in their life, I can't seem to make any progress, I'm not going anywhere. Self-pity may be somewhere in the midst. Self-pity is a training from the enemy that says no one cares for you. No one is there for you. So you need to have pity for yourself. And this is where the trap is. This is where the hook was for me. You look around and you perceive no one's there for me. So therefore, I need to have pity on myself. And it's not compassion. It's a dangerous trap. And we're going to get into, I'm going to help your discernment, help you understand this more. So let's first look at this by looking at what pity is, okay? Just the word pity. Because pity isn't necessarily a bad word. Self-pity is the trap. So pity is simply just sympathetic sorrow for one who's suffering, distressed, or unhappy. This is a Merriam-Webster just pulling it out of the dictionary kind of definition, okay? So it's like, oh, you know. So pity, I'm gonna compare pity, sympathy, empathy, and compassion for a second, because these words are important to understand. Pity says, I see your suffering. You know, feel bad. You kind of have that sense of like, oh, that's terrible. Okay, this is kind of just an entry level emotion. It's just I notice your suffering. Sympathy is a word that says I care about your suffering. I actually do care. Pity's like I've seen it, but I might move on to another subject, right? Or I might see it, but there's not much that's going to happen in our relationship. Sympathy is I truly care. Like this is now something I think about, and I care. My heart is connected to this. Empathy is I feel your suffering, meaning that within my heart there's a connection to emotionally what you're feeling, and it connects to me. And so that is then can move me to a place of compassion, which compassion says, I'm with you. I'll be a help to you. Now, I'm not saying I'll be a help for you. I'm not going to carry this burden exclusively for you. I'm responsible to you, not just for you. That's an important clarity, because otherwise we confuse these different things and we get emotionally wrapped up in people's bondage, because a lot of people's self-pity sucks us into it. But compassion is what the Bible says Jesus was moved with compassion. To what? To action. Compassion is not there unless it's with action. John, in his writings in 1 John, said, let us not love one another with words, but with deed and in truth. So there's action that takes place here, okay? What self-pity does is see that top one where it says, I see your suffering? Self-pity comes in and says, no one sees your suffering. No one's acknowledging it. So what happens is self-pity becomes an emotion that is meant to be directed towards others. Pity. It's kind of the entryway of moving maybe to sympathy or to empathy or being moved by compassion to act, right? Now, let me make this clear. You're not to move from pity to sympathy to empathy and compassion on everything you see. Okay, so some people take that and they feel like they got to do something about everything. Nope. There's a lot, hear me, there's a lot that Jesus did not respond to and address that people wanted him to. Sometimes he walked away from the crowds when they wanted him to be there. Sometimes they'd address a certain issue and he would address it from this other issue. So you got to clearly understand. But people that are in unhealed, unprocessed pain, they're crying out. And in that, they could say, no one sees my suffering. So self-pity becomes an emotional place that is meant to be directed towards others. It's now turned inward. And pity is not meant to be turned inward. Now, you can be compassionate towards yourself. And the compassion will lead you to action, right? It's productive. It's healing. Self-pity is going to disconnect you from relating to God because he don't care. It's going to disconnect you from relating to yourself because you're locked in self-hate, self-rejection. It's going to disconnect you from others. So now your relationships are going to get jacked up. You're not going to know how to relate to people. People with self-pity tend to relate to others with their problems. It becomes your relationship conduit. How are you doing? Oh, here's what I'm going through. It becomes the pattern, a constant pattern. So there becomes an excessive, self-absorbed unhappiness over your troubles. Notice in our modern day age, there's a lot of I'm unhappy. I'm not happy. There's a true lack of joy. And so their self-pity involves feeling sorry for yourself based on the perspective that nobody cares. Those who have self-pity have layers and layers and layers and layers of pain, emptiness, neglect, trauma that has never been fruitfully addressed. And because of that, they have no tools, so they're always drowning. And they can't talk about issues without drowning. This isn't just a small percentage of people. This is a plague hitting our modern culture in so many ways. So the self-pity disconnects you. And here's one of the difficult truths, is that self-pity can actually feel good. And as I'll get into this later, it becomes an addiction. So pity is an entryway of looking at someone else's situation that then should move me, not in every situation, but in my relationship world where those I'm having influence over, I want to eventually be in a place of compassion. And then compassion leads me to act in healthy ways. And if the person receives it, they receive it, right? And this pity thing turning on self is the danger. So I'll give you another analogy. Many times when I talk about loving yourself, the concept of it, there's triggers in Christianity. We go, whoa, you're talking about selfishness. You're making people narcissistic. You're encouraging people. The Bible says in the last days, people be lovers of themselves. Go on my YouTube or my website and you'll hear me explain lovers of themselves. Is loving yourself selfish? And I talk about that because lovers of themselves is the brotherly love that's supposed to be given out to others, the phileo love, and it's turned auto, which means towards self. Brotherly love isn't meant to be something that I give inward. It creates selfishness. So I'm meant to interact with a brother or a sister in Christ and give brotherly love towards them. Well, instead, I turned it towards myself. And so what it is this is an area of love and compassion that needs to go outward to show care to others. People stuck in self-pity become very consumed over what they're going through, what's happening in their life, and they can't seem to break free because they're stuck in their own loop. It's a counterfeit coping mechanism. It seeks to present itself as self-compassion, but it's a toxic trap. It'll keep you in a self-consumed dungeon of negativity. And if you want to diagnose the root system, people with self-pity have self-hatred. And self-hatred is a very, very hidden place of bondage. The root of rejection's there, and then there's hopelessness. It just draws off the past pain to keep you stuck. It creates intense resistance moving forward. You'll feel self-pity rise up when you try to move forward into new territory, into good news, good things. There's this pull that gets on you that doesn't want to let you go. Now, here's what some people say about self-pity, and this is important to take in because it shows how serious it is. John Gardner says, self-pity is easily the most destructive of the non-pharmaceutical narcotics. It is addictive, gives momentary pleasure, and separates the victim from reality. Cindy Nichols says, self-pity is the process of turning an emotion that is meant to bring emotional intimacy with others inward, therefore blocking our ability to emotionally connect with God and others. Self-pity is driven by a desire for emotional intimacy. There's a cry in the heart to connect, but you can't find it, and self-pity presents itself, but it keeps you trapped. Chuck Pierce says this, anytime we experience loss, trauma, wounding, or injustice, think about that. There's a lot of stuff there.
We can either choose to live with a belief system that God can heal and forgive, or we can allow our mindset to form rejection, self-defense, and self-pity. Charles Shields says it straight. Self-pity is a sin. It is a form of living suicide. Debbie Mackenber puts it in a humorous way. She says, it's all right to sit on your pity pot every now and again. Just be sure to flush when you're finished. Now, the way that I see self-pity is quicksand. That's what I see it as, quicksand. You know the thing about quicksand? You step into it, it wants to sink you deeper and deeper. The more you sink into it, the more you flail, and the more you just swing your arms, it just brings you down deeper. The more you panic, the more you get overwhelmed, the more you shake, the worse it gets. Once you step into it, you become pulled into a vacuum of negativity, self-loathing, and depression. It's a spiritual stronghold that acts as a trigger or switch that, when turned on, sends you into a downward spiral of discouragement. It's going to steal your vision of faith, hope, and love while disconnecting you from your relationship potential. And I want you to know that I'm going to give you an unfiltered self-pity diagnosis to help you to understand this, but I want you to know that I'm passionate about this subject because it's very near and dear to my life. Looking back, now that I've discerned and understand how self-pity works, I realized that it was there most of my life. And it would come in moments where I would feel down, I would feel discouraged, where maybe I made mistakes, maybe things that showed weaknesses and flaws, and I didn't know how to find comfort. And I'd look around and I didn't seem to receive it. So I'd look, and maybe my parents didn't give comfort in that moment. They didn't notice. Many times I would express the pain. Maybe I was being overdramatic, or maybe I wasn't. But at times there were moments where it was dismissed. Oh, you'll be fine. Get over it. And I don't necessarily believe that parents need to rescue and come in every time a child expresses pain. But there needs to be an overall equipping on how to deal with it. And I didn't have equipping. And it took me till later in my life where I had to realize, like what Paul said, when I was a child that spoke like a child. When I became a man, I had to put away childish things. I didn't know how to put away. I remember in 2005, I was in a dating relationship with Melissa, who would become my wife a year later. And I was growing and I was gaining so much understanding about healing, about heart healing, about freedom. There was just a lot of great deliverance and freedom happening in my life, step by step in my journey. But I just kept feeling this stuckness. And people would try to help me. They'd try to instruct me, but I just kept feeling this stuck place where I just couldn't break forward. And for me, it felt like it was like plexiglass on my chest. I felt like I was watching the world live, and I was disconnected from the world I was watching. That's the best way I could explain it. So it just kept me in this imprisonment. I would feel this oppression. You're never going to get free. Looking back in my teenage years, I used self-pity to get attention. So if I didn't feel connected, or I felt rejection, or I felt like I didn't belong, I would put on sadness. I would wear it. And I would wear that sadness so that somebody would ask me, "What's wrong, Mark? What's going on?" The problem is that it worked a few times. And when it works a few times, it becomes a real stranglehold on your life, and now becomes a pattern by which you relate. Every language, it is everywhere. It wants to be everywhere. I had a conversation with my daughter last night, who's 9, she'll be 10. Sometimes she talks like she's 9 going on 18. You know, those of you who have kids know what I mean. And she was asking me, "So what are you talking about in your thing tomorrow, your talk, or your teaching, your video thing tomorrow?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing self-pity." And she goes, "Oh, you should bring me on the show." She's 9. I go, "Why?" She goes, "Well, you know, me and that pity." So I first started off by saying, I relate to what you're feeling. And I want to explain something to you called pity. And here's what it looks like. And I shared my own life and my own journey. I shared with her how I didn't cope with things very well.
I spiraled in depression and just numbed out and just remained stuck. But I want to help you. And so that gave me a relational bridge to just be able to talk through this. And so now we have this language where, and I said to her last night, I said, so where do you find, if I was to have you on the show, where would you say self-pity affects you the most? She goes, oh, easy, when I don't get my way. And there's aspects where self-pity comes in where we don't get our way, because God doesn't work primarily in the way we want him and expect him to. And this is really the hard truth. And it brings out our self-pity bondage ways. And so I would experience anger when something didn't go my way. There was even times, and sometimes this is embarrassing to even share, but it's worth sharing, where in the initial stages of my relationship with my wife, if something good would happen to her, there was like an anger that would kick up in me. Like even if we were in a church service and she was being prayed for and great things were happening and God was working, this like self-consumed anger would rise up in me. I almost felt out of control of even being able to deal with it. It's just an overwhelming emotion. And it was my own self-hate and rejection fueling this self-pity, wanting to bring the attention back to me. And then when we got married, there were layers of recognition that I needed to break through of more self-pity, where I related out of that. And I needed to awaken, rise up, and be a man of God, because my wife would bring issues to my attention and I would respond with defensiveness. I would respond to, and that's what pity does. Pity is a way of defending our brokenness and not humbling ourselves. So back in 2005, I'm on an airplane and I'm by myself and I'm on a trip to Peru and I'm going to do some teaching there. I share this story many times. If you've heard it before, forgive me as I process again, but it fits to this. And I'm reading, I'm listening to teaching, I'm just processing stuff, and I'm trying to work some things out, and I'm journaling. And it was like I had a moment. I had a divine moment. Because sometimes it's not somebody telling you something, it's you and God coming to recognition. And something I was listening to or reading triggered the word self-pity. And I went, wait a second. This is it. I'm a self-pity addict. That's tough to recognize that, right? It's tough to go to a group and go, hi, I'm Mark DeJesus. I'm here as a self-pity addict. But something happened in me, and this is the power of repentance. The goodness of God leads us to repentance. I literally wanted to jump up out of my seat, shout out and go, it's pity. It's self-pity. It's self-pity. I can get free from this. I can get free from this. Right? And everybody in the cabin be like, who's this lunatic? Land the plane, this guy, lock him up. But it's actually the opposite. I was getting free. And something rose up in me, and then it just like dominoes started falling. I started seeing here, there. And I just started practicing breaking free from this false counterfeit coping mechanism. I repented of it in my own life. I renounced it. I began telling these programmings of self-pity to leave my mind, to leave my body. I have the power to decide. I have the power to choose. I have the power to take my life back. God is within me, and the giant awakened within me. Now, like I said, it took layers of it, but that moment was a divine moment where I took my life back. Where I said, no one can want this more than me. I got to stop calling people and going, oh, it's just really bad. Can you pray for me? Right? Oh, it's just really bad. It's just really tough. Can you see, there's a lot of spiritual things we do to hide our self-pity. I'll get into that. But let's take a moment and just give an unfiltered. Can I do that? Let's just take the filter off. And just for a moment, just really give just really good diagnostic. Because don't you want just the truth? Let me just for a moment, just really give just really good diagnostic. Because don't you want just the truth? Let me just give it to you straight. This got to be honest. But don't receive this in condemnation, guilt, or shame. That's not what this is about. I want you to get this and get the light bulb turned on, the switch turned on. And like I did in that airplane, yes, I got it. I see the problem and now I can get free. Now I'm empowered. That's why just listening to teaching is so important, because you got to process this for yourself and come to determination for yourself. No one can do this for you. But an unfiltered self-pity diagnosis is this. You respond to your pain in unfruitful ways, mostly by going inward. You focus on negativity and you remain stuck. You become challenging to convince that things can get better in your life. At times you believe you'll never get free or things will never change. You loop around a mindset of being stuck constantly. You feel like you're going through the same thing all the time. You incessantly crave sympathy over the struggles of your life. It's almost an OCD response of sharing your problems. You share them over and over and over again. People hear the same stories, and you don't pick up on it, that you're sharing the same thing with no change, no things that you're trying differently or learning differently. You tend to live in a magnified, negative view of the past. When people love on you, there's a resistance inside. You don't seem to receive it. There's a thought in you that says, you're just saying that. People don't really love me. Many times in my life, I would put my head down and someone would tell me, hey, you did a great job, or this was great, or you're great. There was a block where I couldn't receive it. And maybe I would deflect it back and say something that sounds spiritual. Like, you know what? It wasn't me. It was the Lord. And it sounded spiritual, but it was really demonic. And many times we don't realize we can use spiritual sayings and even scriptures, and it's demonically inspired because it didn't allow me to face my pain and my false coping mechanisms. That I really didn't love myself, that I really didn't know how to receive God's love. I didn't know how to take in my potential and my good future, my good hope. I had a lot of depression in my life, a lot of discouragement, negativity surrounded me. And when you have self-pity, you cope with low self-esteem by bringing attention to your problems. So you relate to other people mainly through those negative subjects. And don't we do that a lot, huh? This weather's getting really bad. Oh, it's really hot. Oh, it's just so cold. Oh, I can't take this weather. Did you read the news today? Oh, I can't believe they're doing this. Can you believe that report? Did you see that post on social media? Oh, the world is getting bad. And that's how you relate. Deep down, you don't believe you're worth being loved and accepted. You don't believe that with all your walls and your fabrications behind all that you're enough, that you have what it takes to overcome. So you easily spiral into the 3 Ds of Satan's kingdom: discouragement, depression, despair. Satan loves to bring that into our lives, get you discouraged, sink you deeper into depression, and then just bring about despair. That despair is that feeling of falling off a cliff and you're never going to land. Honestly, again, this is an unfiltered moment. I take the filter off. Let's just be honest. In love, in grace, but let's be honest. You control and you manipulate conversations around your pity. You turn it. You get upset if people around you are expressing joy, happiness, and fun. You want to see self-pity in your church? Do something that gets people to express joy. And you'll see like half the audience at least get religiously all worked up. And maybe they can give reasons we shouldn't be doing that in church. We shouldn't stand up and clap. That's charismatic, or that's whatever. And really, it's just the conditioning of negativity. And so with God and with other people, you pitch a fit inside when you don't get your way. You make announcements to yourself and others. I can't take it anymore. I quit. I'm done. And you become deeply self-consumed and even obsessed over your problems. You cycle in them over and over again. While going through difficulties, you don't want to reach out and help anyone else. It's a big sign. You don't help others, you don't want to, because you're stuck in how you feel about yourself. And deep down, you loathe your life. You look at your life and you don't like it. You hate it. So anger, rage, and bitterness can become a big part of your life. Now, this doesn't mean that you're just angry and rageful all the time. You're not scowling 24/7. But when these pain points get hit, it comes out.
You develop a constant focus on why is this happening to me? What's wrong with me? You become very introspective, often asking yourself, how am I feeling today? You're always checking how you feel, how you're doing. And the more you do that, the more it hooks you into the past, because you're checking on where you are rather than focusing yourself on where you're headed. You spin in irritability, and you're easily prone to anger. It's a real sign of self-hatred. You feel justified to hold on to the anger and the irritability. You don't know how to process your anger without just passive aggressiveness or going into a posture where pity gets someone's signals to say, oh, what's wrong? Again, we're being honest here. You introspect over your problems in cycles with no resolve or movement. You focus on your failures. You see failure as the end. You may say things, I tried this. I've tried everything. We know it's a lie. You didn't try everything. You just tried a lot of things, but you see those things as failures, and you see failure as the end, when really it's just the beginning of your learning and the beginning of you growing up and putting away childish things and maturing. But you focus on all the reasons why you can't move forward. You've memorized them, you've rehearsed them, and you have spiritual cliches you use to protect yourself and hide your self-pity. You might say, nobody knows the trouble I've seen, but Jesus does. People don't understand, but Jesus does. I'm going to go be with him. I'm going to go in the closet because he knows my pain. Or the classic, I'm suffering for Jesus. You'll always be unhappy with self-pity in your heart. And so with self-pity, you're going to take yourself too seriously. You won't be able to laugh. You won't be able to enjoy the moment that's in front of you. In fact, like I said, one of the greatest signs of self-pity is a loss of joy, a high level of irritation when you see joy in other people. I mentioned last week about the healing exchange of Isaiah 61 in the last session on victim thinking. And self-pity is going to block you from experiencing that. Now, being straightforward and honest with you, I also want to help you to understand, where does this begin? How does self-pity begin? They don't really take steps. They don't work on fruitful conversations. And you know what? It's fine to vent. It's fine. Folks, I do it all the time. I go, man, I'm really struggling with this. But I have to say, what do I need to pay attention to learn and grow? When self-pity, there's no happiness. Happiness is an inside job. No relationship, achievement, or outside circumstance is ever going to truly heal the ache in your heart that has turned to self-pity for help. Self-pity is going to just leave you dissatisfied in many areas of your life, work, home, church. It's going to train you to focus on what you don't have, what you don't like. You're going to look on social media and look at what all they have, and I don't have that. You become dissatisfied. It'll tell you that if you went somewhere else, if you had what other people had, things would be so much better. Now, the difficulty is that self-pity will create a wedge between you and God. If you want to feel an immediate sense of disconnection from God, then allow self-pity to become a dominating presence. Because self-pity seeks to say, God's not here. He doesn't care. He's not helping you. He's not pulling through for you. If you hear those thoughts constantly, that's the voice of self-pity and rejection combined with it. So it causes you to put up a wall. I feel disconnected from you, God. And just like my daughter, when she puts up that wall and she admits it's when I don't get my own way. It's what we do with God. And really your pain with God is not about God. It's about your relational references. It's not about God letting you down. There's a sense of people have let you down. And that has infiltrated your reference of God. So he's not left you, but your heart has become hardened towards him and doesn't welcome him. So self-pity becomes a deep, deep form of unbelief. Now, what's unbelief? If you want to know what unbelief means, because unbelief really sits at the cornerstone or really at the deep root system of deception and sin, it's just the inability to be convinced. I'm just not going to be convinced. I'm not going to be convinced. My life stinks, and you're telling me Hang in there, things could be better. I refuse to believe that. And the Hebrew writer says, beware lest there be in any of you an evil heart. What's the evil heart? Oh, is the evil heart? Oh, lasciviousness and lust and drunkenness and all this deception and sorcery, an evil heart of murder. No, an evil heart of, I don't believe things could happen in my life, be better. God calls it straight up evil. Don't let there be an unbelief in your heart, because this is what it says, of unbelief in departing from the living God, because that's what self-pity wants to do, to just create a separation between you and God instead of running to him and receiving what he has for you today. So he says, exhort one another. So what do we got to do? This is so important, right? We got to exhort each other. That's why we need encouragement. We need exhortation. Hey, you need the word of the Lord spoken over your life. You need that like sharpening of people calling out the overcomer in you. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in unbelief. That's what self-pity does. To realize that this is how you come across to people. Now, you can fabricate and be the happy person. You can fabricate and be the person who's smart. You can be that person who comes across spiritual. But let's talk about your vulnerable places of pain. And you operate like this. Now, you have to understand self-pity wants to get a hook into people by drawing on their compassion. It starts off with a perception of connection. And then they'll say, you're the only one who cares and understands. I'm so persecuted. Can you pray for me? It gives a mask of connection, but there's no true connection. Self-pity is a cry for love. It can't be satisfied by another person, though. And when you don't satisfy their pity, get ready for them to get angry. Get ready for them to say, you don't love me. You don't understand. Get ready for them to withdraw from you. Because the big phrase that comes into their thinking is, if you really loved me. In our diseases, our trials, our addictions and problems, we can become easily trained to use them as a form of getting attention. And sometimes people would say to me, we'd have these moments where we'd pray for healing in people's lives, and they'd come up to me for prayer and they'd go, well, I've been suffering for Jesus. And I say, well, why are you asking me to pray for you? If you're suffering for Jesus, stay on suffering. Then why do we need to pray for this to be changed? And boy, the anger would come out. The rage would come out because they didn't want to hear anything differently. You see, we don't like our spiritual protections to be challenged. What has helped me in my life and journey was people that were coaching me, mentoring me, giving counsel. I allowed them to bring the word that at first it was like, hurt. But I hung in there and listened, and it brought about awareness to things. You see, when you rebuke a wise man, he's going to love you. He may hate you for 30 seconds, but he'll turn the corner and he'll go, thank you for that, because that's going to change my life. And see, one of the biggest places this pity thing happens is in marriage. It prevents couples from having fruitful conversations to land. And the truth is, when you get married, it is truly time for you to put away your childish ways and raise up in identity and maturity. Your marriage is bringing out things in you that God needs to heal and grow in your life. Most spouses blame their spouses for their lack of happiness. Here's the thing. You may be in a toxic marriage that's abusive, and there may be a point in time you feel that you've done all you can do and you move on from it. Really tough decision to make. I get it. I understand it. It won't solve the things that have to be dealt with in your life. And we think, if I just get out, things will be better. Now, I'm not telling you to stay. I'm not telling you to get out. Everybody's in a certain situation in their life. I want to take a moment and I want to speak to our men for just a second. Because men, if you've tuned in this far and you've made it to this far in the broadcast, congratulations, because you're about to experience breakthrough, because it shows you're willing to learn and be taught. It's time, men, that we put away our childish self-pity, our self-loathing, and our going into our little private dens of groaning and complaining. You isolate yourself and you find your comfort in whatever it is.
Maybe it's your drink. Maybe it's that pornography. Maybe it's just nobody knows the trouble I've seen, and you soak in it, in that toxic fume of negativity and doom and gloom. It's time to put away those childish things. It's time to come out into the light and become men of God. Mark, I don't know how to do that. You got to find it. You got to find the fathering. You got to find the mentoring. You got to find the instructing, because people locked in self-pity won't let themselves get the help that they need. And your wives are trying to tell you there's some things going on. Now, wives, you're not perfect. You're not perfect. And you have your own self-pity issues that you work on, that you spiral in. And you blame your husband for everything, but you won't take responsibility for yourself. But I'm speaking to the men because there's a plague of slumber and passivity. And even other care workers and compassion ministers are saying to me, what's going on with the men? Like, we're talking and it's not hitting home. Because self-pity is really laced with pride. It's a defense mechanism. And the day I lowered my self-pity and humbled myself and realized I need to be accountable for how I conduct my attitude, my emotions, my words. I'm called to be a leader, and I must learn to submit myself to Christ and wake up.
If you take a step back from being upset with the other person because they're not growing or they're not growing the way you think they should, you're feeling disappointed in their lack of progress, you're feeling disappointed because it doesn't seem like they want to grow and evolve. If you take a step back and you really look at how you feel about them and your reasons for wanting them to grow and succeed so badly, you will see that you really want what's best for them, right? Like, you being fixated on their outcome, it's not helpful, and it's actually blocking them, because then they're feeling that judgment from you. They're feeling that smothering energy from you, right? They're feeling this vibe coming off of you of like, you're not doing it right, and why aren't you doing it this other way, and you're not growing fast enough. A lot of times that blocks the other person's growth. And if the other person has a personality trait like stubbornness, it's going to be doubly bad, because they're going to feel that coming off of you. They're going to dig in their heels and say, well, I'm not going to even move 1 inch now, right? They're going to get defiant about it. So what we need to do is detach from their outcome. When we recognize that we're doing this, I fixated on someone else growing and evolving, I'm really upset that they're not doing it. We want to take that step back. We want to detach, and we want to come back into center with ourselves, right? We want to take our stuff off that person, stay in our own lane, and put our needs for growth back on ourselves. Take our energy pieces off of them. Once they feel our energy off of them, a lot of times they will start moving forward again. Again, maybe not at the pace that we expect or we would want, but they will start growing, even if slowly. The best
I think it's more people are lost in themselves, and it's become obsessive. They're obsessively self-focusing because they're trying to fix themselves. And so they end up staring within so much. They carry that into conversation. They carry that into interaction. And if I'm staring at myself while I'm talking to you, the conversation is not going to go well. Compassionately going, am I making this too much about me? Am I too focused on myself? It's just a good question to ask.
Right.
Yeah. I think that silence is one of the scariest things for many people that have awkwardness or anxiousness in conversations.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's a challenge for me.
Yeah.
It's a real challenge.
I got to fill it in.
Yeah. And you have challenged me probably since we've been together. Just sit in the silence. I can't do it. I don't like it. It's uneasy.
Well,
I don't like it.
It's not a black and white thing of like just sitting in silence for a long time, but I think it's good to let the conversation breathe. Like let it have some gaps.
I can do that with my sister. I can do that with you.
Yeah.
I can't do it with other people.
Yeah.
Maybe because I don't feel safe. I don't know. Because you maybe don't know where you stand sometimes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Because I think that social awkwardness and social anxiety is coming out more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In fact, let me go to that question because...
Yeah, Dave said artificial harmony, subjects that don't ever offend. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wait, just filling in. I think nothing in this, for those who are perfectionists, those who have intense expectations, they think nothingness means the shallow conversations. And I think that it's important to have practice in the shallow. I used to be the
True statement.
I used to be the kind of person where I would, let's just get to the real stuff. And then
we were too deep sometimes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a self-recognition.
We were in that for a while.
Yeah. Of like, we need to be okay with the talking about the weather. They're talking about some of the little things, talking about the day to day. That's an okay part of life, because then it leads to the deeper, and then you come out of the deeper into some of those more shallow areas and
True
go
statement.
back. It's not just and I think people, when they go, I want a real relationship, they think it's like deep all the time. It's not healthy. You need to be able to have the spectrum of things. But he says, I'm a 19-year-old guy at Bible school with a bunch of other teenagers, and I often feel deeply insecure or uncomfortable in social situations, like making eye contact, speaking in group settings, or even small interactions like ordering coffee. I felt this way all of my high school and thought leaving high school would fix it, but nope. Let's take, for example, a Bible study where something as simple as going around to share names is expected. I feel immense pressure, anxiety, and self-criticism. I wonder if other believers struggle with the same fear of just being themselves in those moments. Yes, they do. To answer your question, yes, they do. A lot, a large percentage, a vast majority of people. I think that we first need to lay that on the table, that there is, even if I'm in a new group that I'm attending for whatever reason, social setting, whatever, they go around the room, I kind of go, okay, how much am I going to share about what I do or who or what I'm about? I think for a moment, and there's an awkward period of like, where can I go here? What do I say? Some people even start rehearsing what they're going to say in their head, and yes, a lot of people struggle with that. And you said, it's hard for me to trust that I'm fully accepted and secure in the Father's love, and I want to grow in confidence, but I feel lost in how to step into these fears without giving into perfectionism or feeling fake. Best advice for, you're 19 years old, you're in Bible school. First of all, most of the kids in your school struggle with the very same thing. And they're thinking about themselves, they're lost in themselves, they're spinning over themselves, they're nervous, they're anxious. In fact, some writers are calling this the anxious generation. There's a lot of factors involved in that life. I need to be a little more real myself. If we're analyzing ourselves in the moment, every moment, or analyzing ourselves all day long, we're going to get into deadly traps. We're getting into places that are not fruitful. So I think that the thing I want to encourage is practice as much in-person social interaction as you can. Saying hello to people, having a brief little conversation, having a little shallow, how's the weather, and then trying to ask a question about somebody else. The best social practice for social anxiety, and getting out of your head and into somebody else, because that's the key. Getting out of self-awareness and becoming aware of someone else, and is to ask them questions about themselves, kinds of things. But if you ask them questions, where'd you grow up? What, some things about themselves, that's the best way to become more of a people person. Become fascinated with other people. So in your interactions, know everybody else at college and people twice your age, people younger than you, struggle with this. Social media has made our interactions, it's brought out our goofiness, it's amplified some of our goofiness, and we have to always maintain the fundamentals of allowing ourselves to practice. So we get to texting and to just messaging when sometimes we need to pick up the phone and actually have a conversation, or actually get with somebody and grace and compassion, go, all right, so what? I'm working through this. I'm practicing. Just because you're manifesting that physically in a way that somebody might be able to see, other people are struggling with it too. I've worked with a variety of situations. People that have anxiousness and showing all those symptoms, even people who, anyway, I'm not going to share some of those details. I was going to get into some personal things, but some scenarios that are very, very personal. But anyway, the key is to keep practicing and don't shame yourself because you're having these symptoms.
thought if you fucking disagree with me, you just didn't fucking like me. And now I fucking realize some people just have different brains, not bad intentions, bro. Number 2, I used to take every opposing opinion as a fucking attack. Whole time, they were just fucking talking. And I was auditioning for the Defensive Olympics. Number 3, I learned you can say, I see it differently without turning it into a fucking TED Talk or a fucking world-class WWE match. Number 4, half the fucking people you argue with online wouldn't last 10 seconds in a real, actual fucking conversation. They just need a Wi-Fi to feel somewhat powerful. Number 5, I realized peace isn't everyone fucking agreeing with you. It's you being okay when they fucking don't. Number 6, I just stopped cutting people off for having opinions that challenged mine. Growth doesn't happen in echo chambers, buddy. Number 7, I finally learned that maturity isn't always about fucking being right. It's about being calm when you can actually be fucking petty. And last but not least, disagreement isn't disrespect, but disrespect will always expose insecurity. Say
parking spaces. And this guy walked up to me, and I know him. He lives there. He goes, hey, your car is parked crooked in your parking space. You should park better. And he's done this to me before, told me that I didn't park right. No, I'm 100% in my space. So you know what I did? I looked at him and I said, fuck you. I'm like, oh, crap, you did, geez. And I said, there's 2 ways to say that. The first way is the guy walks up, tells you haven't parked right, and you say, fuck you. The second way to say it is the guy walks up and tells you haven't parked right, and you say, you know what? I'm starting to feel angry. I can feel it in my body, the tension, the tightness, the fists are getting clenched. Anger's an okay emotion, totally acceptable. It's the right emotion when somebody crosses a boundary. I want to get angry. I hope you get angry. It protects you. And you know what? He's crossed this boundary one too many times. Yeah, I'm going to say it. Fuck you. So the first way was a reactive way to say it. The second way was a mindful way to say fuck you. So let's talk about this a little bit. I think it's important to start with the understanding that you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. And your emotions and your thoughts are not you. Now that sounds weird to some people, but your emotions and your thoughts just bubble up. I never decide to worry about my son or my daughter or something. I just find myself worrying. I didn't sit down and go, let me see, I think I'll spend the next 10 minutes worrying. No, it just happens. So by one measure of brain activity, the conscious mind is processing 40 bits of information per second. The subconscious mind is processing 11 million bits of information per second. 40 bits, 11 million bits. This is where thoughts and emotions bubble up from. Might be a smell that your subconscious brain associates with something. Might be something in your peripheral vision. You didn't really see it. Might be a word on the radio. You didn't hear it because you were having a conversation. 11 million bit per second brain heard that word, and all of a sudden, you're having a thought or an emotion that you didn't plan on. Meditation is not about stopping these thoughts and emotions. If you think meditation is about trying to stop yourself from having these thoughts, you're sadly mistaken. Thoughts and noticing them from a different angle. And if you've already been working on something like somatic tracking, you get the concept of stepping back from bodily sensations and just observing them. Oh, I see what's going on there. We can use the same concept for thoughts. Those also are autopilot brain circuits that are just coming up. These are things like pain. Your brain runs pain signals to keep you like this. Your brain runs thoughts. Oh, I've discovered that negative thoughts, that'll keep Brad in a hypervigilant state. Let me pull up some of those. So this is just your autopilot brain trying to keep you anxious. Can you step back and watch what it's doing? When I'm coming in, then you can decide, do I want to get on that train, let it take me for a ride, or do I want to stay here and just see what's going on? I think I won't get on the train of that particular thought. It might be worry, it might be shame, it might be some other negative thinking. Oh, there's a negative thought. Do I want to stick with that, or do I want to stay here?
Because right now, when I first wake up, it's a little challenging. And so I learned the power of decision in my life and what it did for me. So I have some application that I want to give to you. The first thing is, don't wait for the day to tell you what to feel. The messages when you wake up in the morning that hit you. If you know me, I'm not negative about emotions. I like empowering your emotions, helping you navigate your emotions. I don't dismiss them. Oh, it's just what you feel. Stop thinking about your feelings, right? That's not a black and white message for me. But your feelings go up and down. Your feelings take time to catch up to where you want to head. If you make a decision that I'm not going to let fear be my boss, your emotions are going to need to take time to go, whoa, 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 whoa. We're going in a whole new direction. And many people get stuck because their feelings are constantly checking their feelings. Like we can be very addict oriented. I need to feel a certain way and I'm chasing that feeling. And if I don't have that feeling, I can't move forward. Which leads me to a very important one. Beware of compulsively checking for how you feel, because it keeps you stalled. For many of you, this is an actual compulsion that you get locked into. Checking how you're feeling, examining what it means, staring at it relentlessly. It keeps you looking down. It keeps you looking back. And when you're staring down and staring back, guess what you're not doing? You're not looking where you're going. So therefore, you're usually not taking a step. And many of you are going to have to learn how to take this pattern and starve it. Take this area where you compulsively check, am I feeling okay? Do I believe enough? How do I feel about this thing? How do I feel about this person or this? How do I feel about the situation? How do I feel? How do I feel? And the examining doesn't let you actually live and take a step forward. And we start living when we decide we're going to step into a direction. You also don't make decisions by feeling perfectly about it. We often want our emotions to fully line up, then we make the choice. This was something I followed on a regular basis for way too long. And it dictated way too much of my day, and it stalled my ability to move forward. Now, when you make a decision, decisions lead to taking steps and movement. Many people feel stagnant, and in that stagnancy, depression increases, discouragement increases, because they just need to take a step. And it's like the waters of their life have gotten still, and the river is not moving its waters. And so in that stillness, it gets stagnant, the bugs, the water starts smelling, right? So we have to realize that mental health improves when we take action and we start practicing. You don't just learn and then all of a sudden you're going to be better. You have to practice it and take action so that your body and your whole being starts to experience the learning. We actually learn the most through practice and experience. And many of us get so heady, it leads to rumination. And it's like you're making a decision to move forward and stop feeding your obsessions. Make a decision to move forward, stop feeding your fears. You may have depression, but you don't have to feed it. And I'm going to take loving steps to move in some new directions. You're going to have some resistance. And your feelings take time to catch up. But that deciding leads to just the next step. It's not about the big, giant, series of huge steps. No, it's just one step after another, one step after another, one step after another. And that leads me to the saying that I say, you got to decide and keep deciding. Sometimes we think, I made a decision. I'm going to move in this new direction. I'm not going to serve my compulsions and serve the obsessions anymore. And then you're like, I made the decision. Why isn't it clicking in? Because you have to decide and keep deciding. These are, a lot of you are dealing with thoughts that are trolls, and trolls, you have to decide and keep deciding and keep moving forward and keep moving forward. It realigns your compass. It realigns your focus. When you take the step, it actually helps your focus a lot, because you're bringing yourself into the new way versus just like, I think I can. It's important that in our journey overall, that we learn to keep our head up, look out and forward. That's the majority of what we're doing. Our head up, and many of us, our heads are down. We're staring down, we're staring in, right? Instead of looking out, we're looking inward. Your eyes are meant to look out, right? And forward meaning moving forward. Now we say, well, Mark, shouldn't we, check in, be self-aware? Yes, but check-ins are not meant to be constant, chronic, microscopic, all throughout the day, just continually. Check-ins are meant to be periodically. And many are incessantly introspecting and checking that it's actually sabotaging their ability to look up and take steps forward. And so cultivating this mindset helps you to cultivate single-mindedness. When you take a step, you're living more single-minded. And one of the things that I did that helped my decision-making was I would ask myself empowering questions. Many people ask themselves disempowering questions, or they ask spin-out questions. I asked myself empowering questions, and one of them was, what would my day look like? If I just knew I was connected to how much God loves me, what would my day look like? And I would imagine what that day would look like. I'd look at my appointments. I'd look at the things ahead that day. And I'd go, what would that look like if I lived loved? And so I would act in that way, decide in that way. That built my faith up. And I would take action even though my feelings were not totally lined up with me yet. And I've learned that, I can't wait for all my feelings to line up for me to make decisions. And many are lost between two opinions. You're lost between contrarian thoughts. You take a step and it's like, yeah, but what about this? Yeah, but you want to be, and it's always sabotaging. We fear failure. We fear doing something wrong. But listen, taking a step will help you to learn in such powerful ways, and it helps break procrastination, it helps break double-mindedness, and it helps break that chronic pattern of being stuck. Where in your journey do you need to just go, I need to decide and just take a step forward, one at a time, and keep deciding in that step?
Happen next. Or you're struggling with depression, so you're vulnerable to things just kind of going negative a lot. You have a tendency to just see things negatively, and then it goes into a despair place. What I want to talk about is just some very simple things that I want to encourage you to practice to help you navigate when you're spinning. So you just don't yell at yourself, stop spinning, that you move more into a gracious, more compassionate posture towards yourself. The first thing I want to encourage you to do when you're in a spin cycle, and you're spinning in something, right? Oftentimes what we do is we will spin in it and we will look to someone to address what we're spinning about to fix it. Come on, somebody help me. And then we're lashing out at others, right? So what I want to do is I want to center you. You don't have to be an enemy to yourself. A lot of our brokenness has created a division within ourselves. We want to actually invite God's love into your life. And how do we do that? How do I do that? Well, activate it by treating yourself now with a posture of kindness. What I want to do is I want to be a minister of compassion towards myself. So what you can do is take whatever you're spiraling over and pretend someone else is going through it, somebody that you really love. How would you respond to them? Would you lecture them, judge them, yell at them, shame them? Go on all these reasons why they're never going to get free. Would you do that? No. We would consider a lot of that abusive, but we allow that to ourselves. We do that to ourselves constantly. So I say yes to God's love by treating myself with the same love that God treats me with. So in that process, I'm going to delay judgment, because we're quick to judge, aren't we? The Bible makes this profound statement, though, that mercy triumphs over judgment. That's very powerful, because we're often quick to judge, right? But when mercy comes in, judgment gets put into a proper place, because judgment can take over and become judgmentalism. Now it's a condemning, judging way, and it's detached from love. And when it's detached from love, it loses its perspective. So we want to rein it in and bring mercy. Mercy is God's posture towards you when you're struggling, when you're suffering, when you're spinning. In these moments, I need mercy. And God has compassion towards you. But here's what I find. God can be compassionate towards me all day, but when I'm at war within myself, I keep deflecting it back, keep deflecting it back, keep deflecting it back. So I have to begin to start applying a new relationship with myself. Spinning is a result of a divided self and overwhelmed and not being equipped in how to handle things. And so what I want to do is I want to encourage you now to have a different posture towards yourself. You're going to be more of a lifeguard who goes out to someone drowning, and the first thing the lifeguard has to do is has to get the person calm, or else that person will drown themselves and the lifeguard. So in this situation, you're both the lifeguard and the person drowning. I want to re-equip you to be able to take God's love for you and apply it in that moment It's okay that I'm not okay right now. It's all right. I'm still loved. Patience. Patience is needed. I'm learning. I'm on a journey. This will take as long as it takes. And the kindness of God that listens to the language of his gentleness and his compassion as he's walking with you in your journey. I want to help you establish that with yourself. Number 5 here speaks about activating comfort. Comfort is really the language of nurture. And what I realized is I didn't know how to connect to the comfort of the Holy Spirit. I had a lot of nurture wounds, neglect, and stuff like that, that I would ask for God, but I didn't even know what I was asking for. I was just crying out, hoping something would just land on me. It's like I was almost asking God to force my emotions to change. I'd come in and just make all this. And what I had to do is I had to learn to align myself with what comfort means. The Holy Spirit's the comforter. And Jesus said he's going to remind you of the things I shared with you. So one of the results of learning to connect to the power of the Holy Spirit is learning to receive that comfort in difficult times. And so if you struggle with that, you may need to apply more of, I need to be more nurturing and comforting towards myself. How can you apply that? In the moment when you're spinning, what do you need? Often words. So in that moment, you may need to sit down and pause and speak to yourself and remind yourself to edify, as the Bible says, bring edification. You're on a journey. You're going through some stuff. You're healing. This is going to take some time. You're okay. Just recalibrate. So this comfort brings about the nurture many of us didn't get in our lives. You weren't equipped with nurture, so you don't know what you're looking for. In spinning, you need nurture. But the thoughts will tell you got to fix the thoughts or fix the situation to receive comfort. What I want to encourage you is that we have to learn how to activate comfort in the midst of a battle, in the midst of a storm that's coming against us. Now, I want to make a note here. Sometimes what we do is we go into a pity mode. We go into self-loathing. We start just vomiting, and it's okay, we vent, we all go through this, but we go into these self-loathing things. I hate my life, I hate where I am. We just start vomiting on where we're at. And self-loathing and self-hating is an anti-love practice. So what I'm saying here is not, this is terrible, this is never going to go, I'm just miserable, I just can't catch a break. That's not what I'm talking about, because that's now you're abusing yourself. Self-loathing is a form of self-abuse. And many of us, in the desire for comfort, we start abusing ourselves. And that can go even further because it goes to addictions, it goes into food, overeating food, it goes into sex addictions, it goes into drug addictions, it goes into alcohol, it goes sugar, whatever. So how do you receive comfort? When you're spinning, how do you receive comfort? And many of us need to pause the things we typically do, even numbing out, pause and go, wait a second. Let me invite God and his comfort into this moment. And let me be comforting towards myself, to remind myself I'm on a journey, and to bring about words. Some people find then going to a journaling practice where they document down what they're going through and start learning and identifying the emotions they're processing through, right? There's so many different pathways. Now, one more left. So this final one is important because as I'm taking steps towards a new relationship with myself, the conclusion I want to come to is learning to understand, what is it that I need? What's the emotional need that's crying out in this moment? Now, many of us make the mistake of whatever the subject we're spinning about, that's what I need. So say, what do you need? I need to know if my finances are going to be okay. No, that's not what you need. Because now you're looking for 100% certainty that you'll never have a financial issue for the rest of your life. That's not healing and maturity. See, I need to know that the Salvation OCD I'm spinning about, I need to know. No, you actually need to stop staring at that because it's getting worse and worse and worse as you're compulsively staring and trying to fix. I need to know these thoughts. I need to know this thing. I need to, this about my kids, about this. I need this. We think the subject is what we need. And this is the fork in the road where you will enter into a whole new journey of your healing and freedom. And that's the time you shift from the obsessiveness over that thing that you're spinning about and move into a gentle redirect with a new relationship with yourself and become more aware of what's really going on. See, I learned in my OCD healing journey, I was like, no, I need to make sure I'm doing that thing right or fix that thing. And I was unaware of the broken, empty places in my heart that were screaming out. Because when we're spinning, pain is rising to the surface underneath. But we don't always know what that is. So as I began to be more nurturing and gentle with myself and calm the waters, I recognize, well, I haven't slept well the past few days. I actually need more sleep. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But a lack of healthy sleep for 2 days can make you equal to someone who's inebriated. So just that. See, a lot of times we ignore the simple things. You may go, well, I'm hungry. You might be a little hypoglycemic. And so that affects your emotions, right? You may not be aware of what's been going on that week. Or you're grieving something. And you don't realize I got some things I need to grieve through. Or you're going down to what you need and you go, I don't know anything of what I need. That's a sign of emptiness. It's a sign of neglect, that you've been neglected in how to equip your emotional capacity and your life. So you're going to need to get in touch with learning to understand how you feel, work through your emotions in more fruitful ways. You'll start to realize, I think some childhood stuff's coming up here. This kind of seems similar to this thing when I was 6 or 7. I remember when I was 10 years old. There you go. That stuff's rising to the surface. You start to be more acquainted with what's going on in the need of your heart, so that now when you bring the need now to God. This is where we understand now we're connecting. God, I need you to help me to understand my need and help fill that. And now we're connecting with Him in a deeper, more meaningful way because we're learning how to be equipped.
Because part of letting go our control issues is we see the thought, we notice it, but we're not going to try to engage this control mechanism based in fear anymore. We notice it, it's there, but we're not going to feed it. And people go, oh my goodness, that's impossible. It's not. It just seems like it at first. I noticed this thought. I'm anxious up to here right now, but I don't need to add to it to make it worse. I notice it's there because love is here. And I'm learning to let love cast out fear. I don't need to be afraid of this thought. So I'm going to gently redirect myself because I don't have to fuss, fix, or ramp up this thought. I notice, and you can just float right on by. And I'm going to redirect myself back to a new definition of safety, which is I'm loved even though there's this stuff going on. I'm learning to refocus my attention on what it means to truly be loved. And so I want to encourage the driving force of fear to be exposed in a loving way. You know, looking at some of your comments, you know, that what fear has done in your life. And I'm telling you, I know what it's like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst fear, you feel like you're going to die. I know what it's like to be in 11. I know what it's like to be in that kind of place for a while. I know what it's like to not know where this is going to go. And this is going to stay forever. And this, many of you, that's what comes to you. This is going to stay forever. It's a lie. It's all a lie.
How you talk to yourself matters. And I'm 56 years old right now. And how I spoke to myself, my self-talk, was very different for the first 52 years of my life from how it is now. And I, heard somebody, there's an incredible woman who I'm sure you know, and if as you're listening to us, you don't recognize this name, that's okay. I'm going to tell you what she shared with me. Her name is Dr. Julie Smith. And she said recently to me, she said, now, Mel, I want you to imagine the experience of what it would be like to be locked in a room with your childhood bully for a year. Like, how would that feel? And I was like, awful. I mean, and if you just imagine the person that kind of picked on you or that you were kind of afraid of or the kind of mean person that you avoided in your school, imagine being locked in a room with them for a year. It would be horrible. And then she said, well, great. Now imagine what it would be like to be locked in that room instead with your best friend. And that obviously would be better because you'd have a companion. You'd have somebody that you could have fun with. You'd have somebody that would cheer you up and make you feel hopeful, even though you're stuck in this room together, to play games with, to see the brighter side of things, to make you laugh. And I love that visual because that is your self-communication. The person that you're locked in a room with is a visual example of how you talk to yourself. And as I explain that metaphor for you, and as you visualize it for yourself, just the experience of what it would be like to be locked in a room with a bully versus locked in a room with a best friend, you could viscerally feel what that would be like. And I think what I didn't realize for a long time is just how loud and critical my self-talk and self-communication was. That I didn't see the things that I did well. I saw everything I didn't do right. You know, I could have done 100 things a day, and I'm sure as you're listening to Jefferson and me right now, you've done 100 things already today, even if it's only 10 o'clock in the morning. You've done 100 things correctly. You fed the dog, you got out of bed, you selected a podcast. Like, so many things are like check, 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 but you don't see any of those. You probably have more of a voice that's a bully. And that was my voice for 52 years. I was just laser focused on what I was doing wrong. The one thing I didn't get to, I would look in the mirror and pick myself apart. And I think that there's this mistake in society that believes that if you are tough or if you are hard on yourself, that somehow that is motivating you. It actually has the opposite effect. Like somehow a lot of us are very successful in life, or we get through the day despite the fact that our self-communication and the way we talk to ourselves sounds more like a bully than a best friend. And so a couple years ago, through a combination of just researching a project that I was working on and getting serious about therapy and working on some things in my marriage, and really just saying, I don't understand why I've achieved all this stuff, but I am so burnt out and I feel like I army crawl through the day. And it was surprising to me, although looking back, it doesn't seem surprising when you think about self-talk as either being locked in a room with a bully or locked in a room with a best friend. It was surprising to me how long I lived with a bully in my head. And what I will tell you is this. I am still productive, but I am more motivated, I am happier, and I am able to see the things that are going well because I have changed the way I communicate to myself.
And a lot of what we do in our busyness, a lot of what we do in our constant going, it's not really about relationships. It's about the next project, the next thing, and how much of what we're doing is really just clanging cymbals. We're exhausted, we're burnt out, we're doing more meetings, more projects, more things, more stuff. Is God really leading us to do all those things? Honestly, folks. Because if I put my value on relationship, it takes time. Relationships are messy. It's hard work. It doesn't go according to the schedule. It takes a little extra time. Love brings us back to what's most important. That's why it's the greatest. It always recalibrates your compass. When I'm going through a hard time, what love does is recalibrate. That me connecting with God, me connecting with myself, me connecting with those around me in fruitful ways, that's more important. And you and I are always in a war where those things get off track. Love is so important. And no matter what you say, if love isn't present, you're just making noise. How many times in our meetings, in our sit-downs, in our discussions, we're just making a lot of noise. I began to realize in my life that I was just making a lot of noise. But this is not a meaningless illustration here he's bringing. Speaking in divine tongues gives the impression you are deeply tapped into the heavens, that you are really connected to something powerful. But he's saying that without love, it's just noise. It's not impressive. It's not impressive. That doesn't show up in our culture today. We get we get very impressed with presentation, performance, execution, accomplishment, achievement. We want the end product. We want the nice show. Oh, that person's really, oh, that's nice. But we're still drawn to the celebrity. And then here's what's interesting. There are many people who bash on megachurch pastors or big movements or big organizations and things like that. We go after them. We call them false teachers or false prophets. We just beat on them, right? Well, number one, there's always this angry lack of fruit of the Spirit edge to people who bring out those things. You notice that? You're not drawn deeper into love. You're drawn deeper into I'm right, they're wrong, and there's an edge that doesn't show the fruit of the Spirit. Secondly, we created this. We want Walmart. We want McDonald's. We want all the little things. We want the church to do all these things. We create dances that they need to do, and we get into the buzz of busyness, and we say, yeah, this is good. And God, and as it grows in numbers, we just attach God to everything, right? Love gets us back to, wait a second. Maybe at your next ministry meeting together, it'd be good to sit down and go, where are we just banging cymbals? Where are we just banging cymbals? What do we do, but when we do it, it pulls us from love? Meaning it gets us too busy, it gets us lost, right? Think about it this way. If somebody all of a sudden in the world was raising every person they prayed for from the dead, every person, and every person that they prayed for got healed, what would we do? We would literally drain that person worse than dry. Put them on every platform, get them a banner, publication, marketing, all these things. Our system would suck the life out of it. And in many ways, it's what we see in the book of Ephesians, where actually in Revelation, Jesus comes to Ephesus and goes, listen, you guys are a power-packed church. You do a lot of stuff, but you've left your first love, meaning you left the foundation where love was most important. It's a picture of marriage, too, of the roommate syndrome, where you come together in love, the best you know of love, but instead of growing deeper in love, you move into the roommate syndrome. Why? Because children, bills, jobs, busyness, stress, struggle, trial, sickness, things you go through, they create a drift. That's the pull we're in today, folks, it's not about you doing more. It's about actually clearing out. It's actually doing less to just get back to the simplicity of what it means to just live in love. Sorry, I get emotional with this stuff because I spend my life helping people who are having nervous breakdowns and mental illness and deep brokenness and trauma. And we need a shift in how we do the things that we put as labels of ministry on people's lives. God's question to us is, do you know how to love?
I want you to help him because he's sick and he needs medication, and you have a team of doctors here. Tell him to sit down with him. Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Look, even if I did want to coerce Nathaniel into psychiatry,
Coerce.
Whatever, if I wanted to do that, which I don't, I couldn't force him to take medication. The law's the law, unless he's in imminent danger to himself or someone else.
What if someone said he was? What if someone dialed 911, said Nathaniel had attacked him, they put him in a psychiatric hospital?
I know you're not thinking about
Wouldn't
lying
they?
on him, no,
And then he would be in a 14-day psychiatric hold. They'd put him on meds. Straight away. What if that's all it took for him to be well? What if 2 weeks of meds, a 2-week window into what his life could be, changed his life, saved his life? Why wouldn't you want to be part of that?
Nathaniel has one thing going for him right now, a friend. If you betray that friendship, you destroy the only thing he has in this world.
This is terrible things to you, Mr. Lopez, and I hate myself for saying those things.
Sometimes friends piss each other off, right? It's part of the deal.
I couldn't imagine that you would want to be my friend after I said all those things.
Mr. Ayers, I'm honored to be your friend.